Royal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel. Good afternoon, Britain. It's 12 o'clock on Tuesday, the 1st of July. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Nana Akweer.
Now, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, faces his biggest rebellion yet as Labour MPs prepare to vote on the anticipated welfare bill. Is his leadership on the line?
Well, even if this bill does succeed in getting through, the Prime Minister's authority seriously damaged after 3 U-turns, and where on earth is Chancellor Rachel Reeves going to find the money to pay for this rollback?
Well, if you add the Island of Strangers, it's 4. The BBC's boss, Tim Davie, was at Glastonbury as a punk duo chanted death to the IDF live on air. The broadcaster later admitted that it should have pulled the feed. But should Tim Davie be sacked?
Elsewhere, GB News can reveal small boat crossings have now topped 20,000 this year. That's 50% more than this time last year. Nearly 900 arrivals just yesterday. How many more can we expect today? And is this channel crisis simply spiralling out of control?
The royal train, once Queen Elizabeth II's favourite transport, is being scrapped with the £91 million funding boost and new helicopters incoming. Is this the monarchy's new age of austerity or excess?
Yeah, the first time since the reign of Queen Victoria there will not be a royal train. All of the public royal finances have been published, deciding how your money is funding the monarchy. More details shortly.
And parts of the UK could sizzle at 36 degrees today, hotter than Barbados, we're told. Spare a thought for the fans queuing at Wimbledon.
Well, an absolute summer scorcher here for the second day of Wimbledon. Already yesterday, temperatures breaking records. I think people here are having a good time. Some have queued all night, so let's see what they had to say later on.
It's a big political day today.
Very, very.
This is the second reading of the welfare bill, which is a technical parliamentary thing, but it means it's the most important vote. You know, the last time a Prime Minister lost the second reading of a bill was 1986. I mean, Parliament votes, government lose all sorts of votes all the time, but to lose one as significant as this would be such a significant event, which is why the government has clearly done this expensive £2.5 billion U-turn, which then raises the question, where are they going to find the £2.5 billion?
I think a lot of the Labour MPs might actually backtrack and end up voting for it alongside Sir Keir Starmer. I think a lot of them are scared of losing their jobs, really, even though it would be wise for them to maybe not back the bill. But I don't know. I think that a lot of them are a bit They're a bit weak, aren't they?
I think it just shows how
they don't actually do anything.
little authority the Prime Minister has. I mean, he's had to U-turn, as you say, on one of his speeches. He's had to U-turn on winter fuel. He's had to U-turn on disability cuts. I mean, he U-turned on a grooming gangs inquiry. He's U-turned on so many things in such a short period of time. We're in the 1st of July. In 3 days' time, it would have been a year since the general election. I can't imagine, I can't think of a single newly elected Prime Minister who's done that many U-turns in that short a time.
And also, it's a bit foolish of him to tell us that the reason why he wasn't abreast of his speech and other things is because he had other things on his mind, or because he was too busy going elsewhere and doing other stuff. And it just, why would you say that? It's so amateur. And even to admit that he hadn't read the speech, and in fact, that he clearly hadn't written it, that's just embarrassing.
No, you'd think that if you're going to make a major speech, you read through it first, you internalise it first, and you make sure that you agree with it. It's coming out of your mouth. But much more of that, of course, throughout the show. Perhaps you've got words that want to come out of your mouth, or indeed on your keyboard. Visit us at gbnews.com/your say to get involved in the conversation. All to come, of course, after your latest news headlines with Sam.
Very good afternoon to you. 4 minutes past midday. The top story this hour. 3 former hospital bosses have been arrested in connection with the Lucy Letby case. They are being questioned on suspicion of gross negligence manslaughter. The senior leaders were in charge at the Countess of Chester Hospital during 2015 and 2016. That is while Letby, now jailed, of course, for murdering 7 babies, was working there. It follows a major police investigation into corporate manslaughter at the hospital. Police say all 3 have now been released on bail as inquiries continue. MPs are set to vote this evening on Labour's controversial welfare reform bill, with dozens of their own MPs threatening to rebel despite last-minute concessions. The Conservatives say they'll oppose it, claiming it doesn't go far enough to curb rising benefit spending. Around 35 Labour MPs are now backing an amendment supported by disability charities, amid concerns over future cuts to PIP and universal credit. The government originally aimed to save £5 billion a year by 2030, but concessions have slashed that to £3 billion. Critics warn the changes could still push 150,000 people into poverty. Well, speaking to us earlier here on GB News, Business Secretary Jonathan Reynolds says the welfare proposals will give support to the people who need it most.
The most significant disabilities, who will not ever sort of get better, they won't be reassessed under this. They'll lose the stress of that and will be not wasting money doing that. But we will make sure that support is going to people who need it the most. I think that's really important. That's what I want to see from the system. That's why I asked colleagues to support it today.
More than 20,000 small boat migrants have now crossed the English Channel this year so far. New figures show the milestone was passed at 2 a.m. this morning when a Border Force vessel carrying 60 people docked in Dover. 2 more boats arrived by 8 a.m, with several others still in the water. It means crossings are up 50% on this time last year, another blow for Sir Keir Starmer as he marks 1 year in office. A new returns deal with France is expected next week, but critics say it won't stop the smugglers. Breaking news at this lunchtime from Bristol Crown Court. We now know that the UK's longest-running cold case has been solved after a 92-year-old man has been jailed for life for the rape and murder of a widow in 1967. Ryland Headley was 34 when he broke into Louisa Dunn's Bristol home and attacked her. A jury found him guilty nearly 6 decades later after new evidence came to light. The judge in Bristol Crown Court called it a pitiless and cruel act by a depraved man. In other news, energy bills are falling for 21 million households across the UK, but experts warn they may not drop much more before winter. The typical monthly bill is down £11 under the new price cap. But charities say prices are still painfully high, with families budgeting tightly. Regulators are urging people to consider fixed deals, which they say could save around £200 a year. The Royal Train is being scrapped after a review found it no longer offers value for money, ending a tradition dating back to Queen Victoria. It comes as the monarchy's annual taxpayer funding held steady at just over £86 million. That's the same as the last 3 years. The money covers palace upkeep, staff and public duties. Last year, royals carried out over 1,900 engagements and welcomed guests across more than 800 events. Critics, though, say the system is outdated and they're calling for the sovereign grant to be scrapped entirely. Elon Musk has reignited his feud with Donald Trump, warning the president's big, beautiful bill would add $5 trillion to America's debt. The Tesla boss called it utterly insane and vowed to unseat Republicans who back it. Trump, though, has hit back on Truth Social, claiming Musk owes his fortune to government subsidies. The pair previously clashed after Musk led a cost-cutting department that axed 120,000 federal jobs. And parts of the UK could well hit 36 degrees today as a scorching heatwave pushes temperatures even higher than Jamaica. It follows a record-breaking start to Wimbledon yesterday, where highs of 33.1 were recorded. The UK Health Security Agency has now extended its amber heat health alert to more regions, and forecasters say the southeast will face the most intense heat. But if you're in Wales or the north, showers could well be on the way. That's the news on GB News. I'll be back with you in around half an hour. Now, though, it's over to Tom and Nana.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon, Britain. The Prime Minister is facing the biggest rebellion of his leadership as Labour MPs accuse him of abandoning key welfare reform pledges.
Well, despite last-minute concessions aimed at shielding existing claimants, critics warn the proposed changes could plunge thousands into poverty and create a three-tier, not even two-tier, three-tier benefit system.
So up to 50 Labour MPs are expected to defy the party whip and vote against the bill, aligning with Conservatives and Reform UK in a rare cross-party revolt.
Well, the growing backlash comes as new figures from the Taxpayers Alliance reveal a dramatic rise in enhanced personal independence payment claims, that's PIP, over the past 6 years. Listen to this. Successful claims for obesity, yes, you can claim for obesity, they've surged from 2,346 to 11,228. While claims for anxiety and depression rose from just 23,000 to over 110,000. That's the difference between 2019 and 2025.
Well, joining us now is GB News' political correspondent, Catherine Forster. So, Catherine, what were the initial amendments? And now, is it likely that Keir Starmer will get this through?
Well, the government are very much hoping that this will go through, though they rode back, of course, very considerably last week. So of the £5 billion that they were originally going to save, they've already lost about half of that, and not at all clear how that's going to be paid for. So here we are today. There'll be a vote early evening. The government are hoping it will go through, but there's several dozen MPs at the moment look like they will vote against it. But it's just extraordinary that this is where we are. It's just under a year since this government was elected with a massive majority, a majority of 165. You would have thought then it was impossible for Sir Keir Starmer to lose any vote, that basically he could do whatever he wanted. But here we are in a state of chaos, frankly. I mean, the government and the previous government, the Conservatives, are in agreement that the welfare bill is utterly unsustainable and unaffordable. Health and disability welfare spending currently at about 65 billion a year, and it's going to go up till about 100 billion a year. Absolutely unaffordable. So Rachel Reeves and the government were trying to shave about £5 billion a year off that, and yet it's a spectacular mess, because despite the government going back on its most sort of full-on plans on this, it's still going to be going up dramatically. Where are they going to find this money? And now there's talk of 3 separate tiers, because people currently claiming personal independence payment will be protected. There'll be more stringent rules for people from the end of next year. So there you've got your 2-tier. And then Stephen Timms is launching a review into this, a consultation with disability groups, including people, work out how this could work better so we could have further changes. So there you've got 3 tiers potentially. Many Labour MPs saying, well, hang on a minute, this is deeply, deeply unfair. How can this be right? So dozens of them still furious, and many other Labour MPs also cross, thinking that the government isn't going far enough and the Prime Minister is looking weak with all these U-turns. It's quite an extraordinary mess.
And yet, Catherine, this is all in the context of that ballooning spend. I mean, one of the criticisms from the Tory benches is that these cuts didn't go far enough, because even the cuts that have now been watered down, the full fat version of those cuts, weren't cuts at all. They were slowing down the increase rate of the benefits bill. I mean, it was still going to rise by £8 billion by the end of the decade. Now I think it's going to rise by £10.5 billion because of the half undoing of those cuts. I mean, this is an extraordinary amount of money that we weren't spending even just a few years ago.
Yes, exactly. Gone up very steeply in the last few years, and especially since the pandemic. And yes, the Conservatives were saying, look, we will help you out here if you go along with our conditions. But those conditions included no tax rises as a result, and even stricter criteria. Now, Kemi Badenoch today is saying we have a government incapable of governing after just 1 year, saying, you know, if they can't get this past their own MPs, how on earth are they going to get the fundamental changes needed to get growth and to get spending under control? Worth saying, of course, though, that the welfare bill did balloon under the Conservatives, and Conservatives also were responsible for those lockdowns.
All right, Catherine Forster, thank you very much. Right, let's get the thoughts now of Chief Political Commentator at The Independent, John Rentoul. John, so what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I couldn't agree more with most of what Catherine was saying there. She's absolutely right that this is a humiliating reverse for the Prime Minister, because he wanted to save $5 billion a year. He's had to retreat, so he's only saving half that. But as Tom points out, that means spending is going to go on increasing. It's not going to. It's going to increase faster than they wanted in March, but slightly less fast than was originally planned. I mean, it is a horrible mess, and we have no idea where the money is coming from to pay for it.
John, what's the point in this Prime Minister? I mean, he said he wants to cut benefits, now he's saying he wants to protect benefits. He said that he believes in international law and international aid, then he cut international aid. He said that he wanted to rebalance the generational inequality in this country, and then he performed the most spectacular U-turn on the winter cruise allowance, the winter fuel allowance. I mean, on all of these issues, you've seen the Prime Minister almost not know his own mind.
Yeah, but that is the impression that he gives, and it's not a good one. But I think that those are different issues. I mean, the winter fuel allowance was unpopular with the general public. I mean, they thought that was an unfair attack on pensioners. The benefits bill, however, is completely different, because that's a U-turn from something which was popular, which is to to restrain the increase in benefit spending, to a position which is more unpopular with the general public. And I think that's the problem. That's why this is such a damaging change, because although it's obviously more popular with Labour MPs and with Labour Party members, it's not popular with the general public.
Well, you could argue that some of the U-turns that he's made were wise. For example, the National Grooming Gangs inquiry. I think,
exactly.
So he had to do them, but.
Well, he could have just not opposed it in the first place.
That's what I was just about to say. It was obvious that they should have been a national inquiry, because Charlie Peters, our exceptional reporter, found at least 50 award-winning one. Found at least 50 locations where it's happening. So it's obviously it needs to be a national thing that we need to be looking into. But look, isn't this kind of normal anyway? Because remember the Tory party, what happened was they had a majority, and in the end, their majority became their opposition. It's what happens to parties with huge majorities.
Yeah, but no, I mean, within a year of winning an election, it is a little bit embarrassing. And I think it just shows that the Labour Party is not serious about wanting power. I mean, if you look at that, there's a survey of Labour Party members. 72% of Labour Party members think that Nigel Farage and Reform are their biggest electoral threat for the next election, and yet they think the response to that is to increase disability benefit spending faster than was planned, and adopt unpopular positions on everything else.
John, it's clear that there is some sort of coup brewing. Not necessarily around the position of the Prime Minister, which everyone gets very excited about, of course, but around the back team in number 10. It's always a bad sign when the most senior advisor to the Prime Minister becomes a household name. It happened with Alastair Campbell, it happened with Dominic Cummings, and now it seems that it's happening with a guy called Morgan McSweeney, who has been sort of the
invisible hand,
the Machiavelli behind the last, well, at least since Christmas. Do you think he could be moved out and someone perhaps a bit more lefty liberal moved in?
Well, he's already got rid of Sue Gray.
Well, yeah, it's very complicated, and differing signals are coming out of number 10. I mean, because some of the same reports that suggest that Morgan McSweeney is likely to be moved also suggest that Keir Starmer is listening more and more to Jonathan Powell, who
gave away the Chagos Islands,
but who was also Tony Blair's chief of staff and a thoroughgoing Blairite, and not that that would not be a lefty liberal.
Hang on, John. He was in charge of our Chagos negotiations. I mean, putting that stunning, successful chap in charge of the entirety of the number 10 operation. I mean, that does not bode well.
I think the Prime Minister must take responsibility for the Chagos surrender. I mean, I think that was an inexplicable deal, but it was the Prime Minister's responsibility, not Jonathan Powell's. So I think it's not clear what these possible personnel changes in number 10 might mean.
All right, John Rantoul, thank you very much. But very, very briefly, can you think of one thing that the Labour Party have got right?
Yes, no, they've actually increased spending hugely on public services generally, and the NHS. That sort of spending is actually popular and what is needed.
All right, I thought we'd end on a positive.
No,
we're going to find something.
You get nothing but balance here on GBNews. John Rantoul, thank you indeed for joining us.
Right. Well, listen, as temperatures continue to soar, we've got the coolest cash prize of the summer to be won. A totally tax-free £54,321 is up for grabs. This is how it could be yours.
The Great British Giveaway is now even greater, with your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. A totally tax-free £54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you can spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Imagine what you could do with that. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash, so make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, good luck indeed.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Plenty more to come on today's programme.
The broadcast of the BBC is under fire. Tim Davie was at Glastonbury as those deaths to the IDF chants aired live. With calls growing for him to go, we asked, should the Director-General be sacked?
And just why has the royal train been scrapped? A majestic thing. We learnt today it even includes a bath. Well, we'll have the very latest.
Five hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night. This is the Saturday Five.
You got me. You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the
unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
French authorities first seized the Lady T, and that's an Eastbourne-based fishing vessel. And next, they fined its skipper, Philip Edwards, €30,000 to release his boat. Now, the Lady T, operating legally under UK jurisdiction, was intercepted by a French patrol ship near the Somme Bay. Now, the incident has sparked massive outrage among British fishermen and is renewing calls for the government to stand firm against French overreach in national waters. Well, I'm delighted to say I'm now joining with Charlotte Edwards, who's the husband. Husband Philip is the skipper of the Lady T and is out fishing right now. Charlotte, welcome to the show. I've got to say, here at GB News, we are hugely supportive and appreciative of British fishermen and fisherwomen. Do a fantastic job. So if you're nervous about the interview, please don't be. I want to ask you how on earth this happened. I mean, there's been a lot of talk, for example, that the Lady T didn't have the correct paperwork, it was fishing illegally, and the French decided to pounce. What's the reality?
The paperwork just slipped through. It was an admin error. The other two boats had the permits, and unfortunately, his didn't at the time. He wasn't in as far in as they said he was. He was about 800 metres in their water. He wasn't near the 12-mile.
He was intercepted by the Pluvier. That's a French Navy ship. No, by the way, the sort of French Navy ships that just seem to give an escort to illegal dinghies coming into British waters, suddenly pouncing into action. The only boat they've managed to stop seems to be the Lady T.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 26 minutes past midday. Now backlash for the BBC as the Director-General Tim Davie is dragged into the Glastonbury hate speech row, as it was revealed he was personally consulted over what to do about the performance.
The BBC Director-General was at the festival when Bob Villan led chants of death to the IDF. Broadcast live on the channel.
Well, for her part, the Culture Secretary has said the BBC must explain how these scenes were broadcast in the first place. But should the Director-General keep his job, or is it time for him to go?
Well, joining us now, former Chief Executive of Channel 5 and former producer at the BBC, David Elstein, and also former editor of the Jewish Chronicle, Jake Wallace-Simmons, joins us now. Right, I'm going to start with you, Jake. You must have been absolutely horrified listening to that and being broadcast on our national broadcaster that we all pay for.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that the Director-General himself was at the festival and didn't put a stop to this being beamed out on iPlayer and so forth to millions of homes up and down the country really beggars belief. I mean, this is a chant, death, death, to the IDF. It's not a common chant in Britain. Do you know what I mean? We might shout down with something or, you know, whatever football chant, but people don't shout death to things. That's a translation of an Arabic chant, to be honest, that's made its way into our culture and is now being chanted by thousands and thousands of people at Glastonbury Festival and beamed out by the BBC. So it's inexplicable how the BBC can have not decided to kill this before it was born, you know, to stop it going out to millions of people. They took the decision to stop Kneecap being broadcast, and yet when it comes down to a question of having to improvise, oh, look, we've got this situation, what are we going to do with it? it. They went with their gut, and their gut showed where they really stand, I'm afraid.
David, as a former producer, no doubt making decisions similar to the ones that had to be made by the BBC on that day, talk us through what the process might have been. I mean, it must be difficult when you're dealing with live events.
It's no more difficult than any other form of broadcasting. You've got to be prepared and you've got to be alert. Obviously, the BBC, having taken the precaution of not live streaming NECAT, failed to do their research on Bob Vylan, failed to understand that they were no different as provocateurs and slogan shouters, and carried on live streaming even after the death threats have been issued and the anti-Semitic statements have been made. And whoever was in charge of the actual broadcast is the person who should have pulled the plug. The reason for not pulling the plug is, for me, unsustainable, and that should have been done. It's a coincidence that Tim Davie was at the scene of the crime, but the crime had already been committed. The failure to prepare, the failure to have a contingency, the failure to pull the plug, all those were nothing to do with Tim Davie himself.
Yeah, but David, I just want to say that the BBC actually had got quite a long history with Bob Vylan, so they knew exactly what this particular guy, in particular that guy singing, was all about. So they haven't even got that as an excuse, really.
I agree with you. It's a failure of process. You've got 400 BBC employees at Glastonbury.
I think it was 900 actually this time.
Or however many it was, plus
But David, your argument is that this isn't on the head of the chief executive or the director general, I should say. This is a wider process issue. I just want to bring you some breaking news on this story now. The band Bob Vylan has said they are being targeted for speaking up. That's a quote from Bob Vylan, feeling targeted for speaking up. This after their comments, of course, were branded anti-Semitic, and that police probe was launched yesterday afternoon. I want to throw that over to you, Jake Wallace-Simons. The idea that this band feels that they are the victims in all of this.
Well, it's just contemptible and it's predictable. I mean, you know, what did he expect? I mean, the whole reason behind his performance, not just this one where he shouted death to the RAF, but his music in general. If you listen to it, it's producing the most insulting, provocative terminology and statements and rhetoric and throwing it in the face of the public to get a reaction, to get a rise. That's what he's trying to do. And look, you know, now he's got this big reaction. He's become notorious. Everyone knows who the guy is. I frankly wish I never knew who Bob Vylan was. I'd quite happily go through the rest of my life without ever learning his name. And yet he's now got this notoriety, and he's seeking to magnify this notoriety by pretending, oh, now I'm being targeted, now I'm the victim, to get more points, as far as I'm concerned. I think he's absolutely contemptible and shouldn't have been on stage in the first place. The fact that he was performing at Glastonbury says a lot about the Glastonbury organisers, about the people who go to Glastonbury, and about the entire progressive left, all of whom lost their moral compass a long time ago, particularly when it comes to Israel and Jews, but also when it comes to Britishness. Don't forget, Bob Vylan attacks Jews and Israel, but as a proxy for attacking our British way of life and our values. It's absolutely contemptible. There isn't any other word for it.
Well, I just looked it up, and I think it says Alison Howe is executive producer at BBC Studios for Glastonbury on TV and will oversee the BBC television coverage of one of the world's most anticipated festivals. I also did read that another lady called Lorna Clark was also in charge of that. And do you think that perhaps those people, in particular those on the ground, should be the first to go? Because somebody has to go. What do you think?
There's a long tradition here of assistant heads rolling at the BBC. So it's quite rare for the top person to go. It's happened a couple of times, Greg Dyke and George Entwistle. But if you go back to, say, something like the Jonathan Ross, Russell Brand, Andrew Sachs affair, eventually the head of Radio 2, Leslie Douglas, resigned. And Ofcom came down quite heavily on the BBC and fined them, I think, £150,000. Now, Ofcom are definitely going to have a go at the BBC on this. There may well be a fine. It wouldn't surprise me if more likely Alison Howe than Lorna Clark were forced out. But I don't think in the end it will get to Tim Davie. And indeed, it would be catastrophic for the BBC just when BBC Charter Review is being embarked upon with the government. And the whole future of the BBC is being discussed. To lose your chief executive over Bob Villan, really?
Well, I think it's actually disgusting, disgraceful, and it did real damage to the reputation of the BBC and indeed this country that we broadcast that. So, no, I think they've got questions to answer, and some people need to go, in particular those who made the decision to broadcast it, because if it had happened here on GB News and we've reported that, well, we'd be gone. The channel will probably be taken off air.
Well, that's all we've got time for. But David Elstein and Jake Wallace-Simons, thanks so much for being with us, talking through both that issue with the BBC, but also that breaking news.
Now, on the claims that Tim Davie made the decision to keep Bob Villan on iPlayer, a BBC spokesperson told the GB News, "This is categorically untrue. The Director-General was informed of the incident after the performance, and at that point he was clear it should not feature in any other Glastonbury coverage."
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News, and there's plenty more to come on today's programme.
Yes, just why has the Royal Train been scrapped? We'll have the latest, but first, let's get your latest news with Sam Francis.
Very good afternoon to you. Just after 12:30, the top story. 3 former hospital bosses have been arrested in connection with the Lucy Letby case. They're being questioned on suspicion of gross negligence manslaughter. Police say all 3 have now been released on bail as inquiries continue. MPs will vote tonight on Labour's welfare reform bill. Dozens are threatening to rebel, though, even though the government has slashed its savings targets. Disability campaigners warn 150,000 people could fall into poverty. Energy bills drop £11 for 21 million households under Ofgem's new price cap, but experts warn they may rise again by winter. Charities are urging families to consider fixed deals. The Royal Train is gone, the end of the line for a tradition that began with Queen Victoria. Campaigners argue the £86 million sovereign grant is outdated and say the system needs to change. In the US, Elon Musk has slammed Donald Trump's Big Beautiful Bill, calling it utterly insane and vowed to oust supporters. But the president's fired back, accusing Elon Musk of owing his wealth to government subsidies. And the heat wave continues. Parts of the UK could see 36 degrees today. That's hotter than Barbados. The southeast will bear the brunt, with an amber heat health alert extended across more regions today. Those are the latest headlines for now. More news with the news at 1 o'clock.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello, this is your GB News weather update from the Met Office, and now today's likely to be the peak in this heat wave across parts of the southeast, with temperatures a little bit hotter than yesterday, but it's not hot everywhere. There is a front lying across some central parts, and that's bringing a bit more cloud, even some outbreaks of rain across parts of northern England into Wales, also parts of the southwest maybe, and eastern Scotland. Further northwest of this, it's a bright picture through much of today, some decent sunny spells, more sunshine there across central, eastern, southern parts of England, and this is where we're going to get the highest temperatures. Some very humid air still across these areas, and so we're looking at temperatures peaking around 34, 35, possibly even 36 Celsius. A fair bit fresher than this towards the north and west, and where you get the cloud and the rain, it's going to feel fresher as well. As we go into this evening then, a bit of a damp end to the day across some central eastern parts of Scotland. Some heavy bursts of rain possible. Could see some relatively high totals building up. Across western parts of Scotland, a brighter end to the day here, and similar across Northern Ireland. Some further heavy rain affecting the Borders area and the far north of England, and quite a bit of cloud across other parts of northern England into Wales as well, and some spots of rain, but towards the southeast, a fine picture as we go through this evening and the start of the night. But overnight, there will be some further rain across eastern parts, and some bursts of rain could push into some southeastern areas as well as we go through the early hours of tomorrow morning. Further west, a drier picture with some clearer skies, and for many, it's going to still be quite warm, but perhaps not quite as warm as it was last night, a little bit more comfortable across parts of the southeast. Then as we go through tomorrow, eastern areas having having a bit more cloud and some further rain at times. This could be quite heavy, could even be a bit of thunder mixed in across eastern England, even the southeast seeing some heavy bursts. Elsewhere though, apart from a few scattered showers across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, it's looking mostly dry, but not as warm as it has been. Temperatures peaking in the mid-20s.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A701 northbound at Bloomfield roundabout is shut for emergency gas works. Drivers should follow the designated diversion and anticipate prolonged travel times. The M4 westbound has a lane closure between junction 34 Miskin and junction 35 Pencode due to a recent accident. In Surrey, the M25 anti-clockwise exit slip at junction 11 is down to one lane following a road incident. And on the trains, Chiltern Railways faces disruptions to and from London Marylebone, while Avanti West Coast reports issues between Stoke-on-Trent and Macclesfield. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 39 minutes past midday now. It's the end of the line for the royal train. Yes, King Charles has decided it's time to retire the historic locomotive with rising costs and a new era of royal accountability. The palace says the train will go by 2027.
Oh, I love trains. I do. I'm always a back-facing person, so because if you sit forward-facing, you've got to keep turning your head to look what's in.
Oh, I've never thought of that.
Think of that, and also apparently it's safer. Meanwhile, royal helicopter use appears to be on the rise. Here's the King and Queen arriving in Edinburgh earlier today with the leasing of 2 new choppers, which will use sustainable aviation fuel.
Sorry, the sustainable option here is to ditch the train and take the chopper.
It's not really, is it? It's cheaper on the
You've got to admire the spin here. But this decision comes as the public money used to fund the monarchy for the last financial year has been revealed, costing over £86 million.
Right, we're joined now by GB News royal correspondent Cameron Walker. Cameron, so they're going to ditch the train. What a shame.
They are. It's all about providing value for money to the British people. So let's just explain briefly how the royal family is funded with your money. So the King owns the Crown Estate. Hopefully you'll be able to see it in a moment. And that is a big portfolio of lands and property and the seabed around the United Kingdom. And the King surrenders all of it. It's worth even over £1 billion. And the King surrenders all of those profits back to the Treasury. And then the UK government can spend that money on what it likes. But a percentage of those profits goes back to the King in the form of these sovereign grants. And that is the money the King gets, a pot of money, to fund the official duties of the monarchy, including official travel, including paying his staff and upkeep of royal palaces. As you said, just over £86 million this year. Next year, it's going up to over £100 million due to the resurfacing of Buckingham Palace. But as you said, the train is no more from 2027. Huge maintenance costs surrounding it, as well as it would need to be upgraded to keep up to date with the Network Rail updates, which apparently is going to cost way too much money. And of course, storing it when it's not in use. It was only used twice for last financial year, and each journey cost well over £20,000. So instead, as you just saw in the clip there, they're using a lot of helicopters. The King and Queen currently in Edinburgh for the start of Holyrood Week. There are some protesters who are not particularly happy about it. Take a look.
The older generation had a loyalty to the Queen, but the Queen is gone now, and it's nothing personal against the current people doing the job, but they are increasingly seen as a sort of a relic of older times, and we now need an elected head of state.
We're living with this outdated hierarchical system that goes a lot further than the royal family, and we need to change things.
One of these days people are going to wake up and see that this institution doesn't add anything to this country. It's something from the Middle Ages. We need a modern constitution in Britain, Scotland, whatever, and we need to get rid of the royal family.
So that's obviously one point of view. I think it's important to stress that that 86 million figure equates to around £1.29 per person in the United Kingdom. So it's not a substantial amount of money if you go by those terms. I think what's also important to point out is what we've also learnt today is that the King and Queen have granted royal warrants to the Prince and Princess of Wales, i.e. they can start giving out their own warrants, which provides a boost to British businesses when they have the royal warrant on part of their logo. I think what's also important to point out is the travel associated with the royal family. Some would argue that by the royal family travelling abroad to different parts of the world increases trade with those countries, the so-called soft power of the sovereign. But the most expensive trip for last financial year was to Australia and Samoa, which cost us over £400,000. So it is not quite a lot of money.
But, Cameron, you say that the Crown Estate is worth over £1 billion. Is that £1 billion of revenue each year from the Crown Estate?
£1 billion of revenue each year.
So that's £1 billion of revenue that the King... That's effectively the King's income, but he only gets, what is it, 76 million of it?
Currently, well, it depends on how much profit it makes. So it's currently the 12%. So it's the Crown... It's the profits of 2 years previous.
OK, so he gets 12% of his income. That, to me, is an 88% rate of tax. I don't know if there's I don't know if there is a higher taxed person in this country than the King.
Possibly not, no. And that is an argument which a lot of monarchists would make.
Does he pay rent then for the property, for the palaces and things, or does he just get them chucked in?
Well, it depends which palace you're talking about. So he personally owns, the private Windsor family owns the Sandringham Estate and the Balmoral Estate in their own right. Then, of course, as head of state, he has the use of properties such as Buckingham Palace and Kensington Palace, Clarence House and all the rest of it. He doesn't pay rent on them because they're owned by the state. He basically, gets to live in them. But then, of course, he has lots of other... Windsor Castle is another example. But he has lots of grace and favour homes which he can, of course, give out to his staff or his family members. Frogmore Cottage, for example, which Harry and Meghan used to live in, still remains empty. And there are no immediate plans to fill that property.
Well, I'm looking for somewhere, Kingy. Yeah, I could move there.
We know you're watching.
Yeah.
No, I mean, but this is the strange thing about it all. We all talk about the cost of the royal family, as if abolishing the royal family would mean also expropriating all of their wealth. I mean, the Crown Estate isn't necessarily something that we could just nationalise. No. I mean, you can't just say. I mean, I don't know. Let's just take all of Richard Branson's property from him, and Richard Branson costs us money somehow. I mean, to me, right, the Crown Estate is owned by the Crown, not by Keir Starmer or Rachel Reeves or anyone else.
Yeah, it's held in trust by the King. So the Crown Estate is a completely independent property portfolio which runs itself. Now, one of the arguments as to why it's right that it should be held in trust by the King is that they're not in it specifically for profit and to make as much money as they can for the benefit of those who work there. For example, they recently created this huge wind farm in the North Sea, which created a massive windfall in terms of extra revenue. And the King asked for the extra money to be directed back towards the public good. In other words, he's not going to get a boost in the sovereign grants from the profits, just because a new wind farm has been built.
Can I just quickly ask you, while we still have you, about this train?
Yes.
Because I didn't realise that the train was actually still regularly in use. I thought it was just ceremonial, but clearly the King was using it.
I mean, it depends what you mean by regular, Tom. The last financial year, it was used twice for 2 journeys, both of which cost, well over 20 grand was the first one. The second one was well over £40,000. It's an 8-carriage train.
The average train ticket on the railway.
I know. Well, they don't even own the actual engine, so they rent the engine, the locomotive, and the only royal train bit is those 8 carriages that run behind it.
It does look a bit dated, to be honest.
Well, it is. King Charles had a carriage added when he was Prince of Wales in the mid-1980s, and he still uses it today, so it's incredibly outdated. It needs a massive makeover and upgrade, which would cost, we're told, simply too much money. And, of course, all the time it's not being used, it's being stored, which, again, costs money. So what's going to happen, we think, is it's going to turn into some sort of museum, but they haven't worked out the details yet.
OK. Actually, seeing some of these pictures, I'm less irked that it's going to become a museum now, because, I mean, it's not exactly state-of-the-art as things stand.
No, I think it's a little old, I'm afraid. Perhaps it's past its time.
All right, Cameron Walker, thank you very much. He's GB News' royal correspondent. Right, well, if you're in search of some winter or holiday sun even, just stay here. If you fancy going to Europe, then here are some of the destinations.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The heatwave continues across western and central parts of continental Europe, temperatures widely reaching the mid-30s, and this is likely to trigger some quite severe thunderstorms at times, particularly across Spain, northern parts of Italy, parts of Switzerland. This could bring some quite intense hail, frequent lightning and also some gusty winds. But across southern parts of Italy, parts of Greece, it should remain mostly settled. Plenty of intense sunshine continuing as we head into the weekend, and temperatures widely remaining in the mid-30s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk then? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's just gone 10 minutes to 1 o'clock, and today is the second day of Wimbledon, after the hottest ever start to the competition, with temperatures reaching nearly 33 degrees.
Action on the court is also hotting up as Novak Djokovic, Jannik Sinner and also Jack Draper begin their Grand Slam campaigns today.
Well, we're now joined by GB News reporter, big fan of tennis himself, Adam Cherry, who's got the lowdown on Wimbledon for us. Adam, as our tennis expert, first of all, going to start off with this weather. My goodness me, must be hot.
It is, yeah. Well, as you said, guys, it's about 30 degrees now. We've been here since about 8 o'clock. As the temperature has steadily climbed. But the good news is everyone in the queue here, which you're seeing behind me, is keeping in good spirits. We've just seen the 7,000th person cross over into the court. And many of those people have been here since about 2 o'clock in the morning, if not last night. So they camp out in tents and endure the heat overnight just to see their favourite players today. I spoke to some of those people earlier today. This is what they had to say to me. Check it out.
Honestly, it is a little bit tricky, but I survived yesterday and I'm planning to survive today too.
Flipping boiling. These two are struggling. It's too hot. They came to that earlier, they were like, oh, got a heat stroke.
Yeah,
got a heat stroke.
we slept on the floor, got at 2. Had about, what, half hour nap?
Yeah.
Pretty tired.
The hottest it's ever been for me yet. It was ridiculous yesterday.
So 9 Brits playing today. Heather Watson is playing Torsten currently in a decider. And as you said, Jack Draper plays later this afternoon at about 4 to 5:30. Of course, that depends on exact timings. And as you said, Djokovic will also be on the court later today, guys.
Oh, Adam, thank you very much. Great to see you there, Adam.
We ran out of time to ask him all the complicated tennis questions. I was very much looking forward to asking Adam exactly what was going on throughout the course of this tournament, but I'm afraid we're going to have to save that for another hour. Adam Cherry, thanks very much for joining us.
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember the day, back in the day, when we had Bjorn Borg, McEnroe, Jimmy Connors,
I
Ivan
remember growing
Lendl.
up with Tim Henman.
Tim Henman. This is how young he is. He's like half my age.
I know. When was Tim Henman playing? Early 2000s?
Yeah.
That was when I was growing up.
How old are you, Tom? How old are you? In your early 20s?
No. I actually, it's my birthday very soon.
Mine too. When's your birthday?
It's in August, actually.
Oh, mine's July.
It's the same day as Mother Teresa, because we have so much in common.
Oh, exactly.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News, and there's plenty more to come on today's programme.
A 92-year-old man has been told he will die in prison after being found guilty of Britain's oldest cold case.
Well, that's after the weather.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again, I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, the heat hasn't been everywhere, but if you're in the southeast, it has been really hot today and oppressively humid. It may be welcome news to hear that things are going to be turning fresher. There is a cold front nearby that's brought a bit of cloud, bit of rain, and behind it there is fresher air coming in, and so temperatures are going to be dropping. But for the time being, still hot and humid across parts of the southeast as we go through the end of the day and through overnight as well. Elsewhere, there's some clouds, some rain, which could be a bit heavy at times across some northern parts of England, southern Scotland, but mainly a east-west split as we go overnight. Clearer weather towards the west, a bit cloudier towards the east, and like I said, still pretty warm and humid in the southeast, but it isn't going to be quite as warm as it was last night. Then as we go through tomorrow morning, eastern parts of Scotland, here it's a cloudy start. There'll be some further rain. That could still be quite heavy at times. Further west, a brighter picture, but a few showers starting to push into the Western Isles already. And similar across Northern Ireland, mostly fine, but a few showers out towards the far west. A west-east split across England and Wales, cloudier towards the east. Outbreaks of rain, which could be quite heavy, brighter, drier towards the west. Then as we go through the day tomorrow, watch out for some heavier bursts of rain pushing into parts of the southeast across Kent into East Anglia. Could be a bit of thunder mixed in with these. Also, some of the rain across eastern England, eastern Scotland could have a bit of thunder mixed in. Otherwise, there'll be further showers feeding in across Scotland and Northern Ireland, but across the rest of England and Wales, actually looking like a fine day. And temperatures, particularly in the southeast, markedly lower than they have been of late, mid-20s at highest, so feeling much more comfortable, really. The worst of the rain clears away towards the east as we go through tomorrow evening, but there will be a few showers continuing across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. And thereafter, through the rest of the week, well, it is going to be more changeable. There's going to be some wet weather coming in from the northwest, and that could be heavy at times.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash. So make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Where Anna Riley, our intrepid reporter, is doing the toughest job in television right now, which is enjoying the sunshine. Anna.
Yes, Tom, it's definitely a tough gig for me today, I'll tell you. I'm on the Bridlington Fun Park ride here. This is the zero gravity ride. This fun park is, off we go. This fun park is right next to the sea. Oh, it goes quite quickly, I'll tell you. And people are out enjoying rides like this one. Off we go. It's a great boost for tourism, and we've been speaking to people here in Bridlington about what's so great about the sunshine. Let's have a listen.
We're on holiday. We've been here since last Friday, so we can't complain. It's been beautiful, and we're here till Monday, so we're really looking forward to the hot weather. As you can see, the sunbird.
It's lovely. It really is very nice. It's absolutely gorgeous. We deserve it, definitely.
It's good. We like the warm weather.
Yes, very nice. Loving it. Yes, like the warm
enough.
weather.
Woo! Well, this ride is showing no signs of stopping, and neither is the sunshine. We're getting that heat wave at the weekend. Enjoy the weather and enjoy fun rides like this one. Get to Bridlington and get to the fun park.
Oh my gosh!
Absolute bravo, Anna Riley. What an incredible piece of television. I hope they let you off at some point.
I thought they'd only do it once or twice. Bless her.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It is fast approaching 1 o'clock on Tuesday, the 1st of July.
I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Nana Aguirre. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer faces his biggest rebellion yet as Labour MPs prepare to vote on the anticipated welfare bill. Is his leadership on the line?
Elsewhere, 3 former members of the leadership team of the Countess of Chester Hospital have been arrested on suspicion of gross negligence manslaughter. It follows the trial of subsequent conviction of former nurse Lucy Latney.
Millions of savers could lose part of their tax-free allowance as the Treasury eyes up cuts to the 20k ISA limit. Is Rachel Reeves risking backlash to boost the markets? We'll have the latest.
And small boat crossings have surged past 20,000 this year, up 50% as record immigration and dire housing shortage leave millions priced out. Now, this is an interesting one, with the birth rate falling but house prices still stubbornly high. Is Britain running out of space, opportunity and patience?
And a 92-year-old man is found guilty in Britain's oldest cold case. 37 years after Louisa Dune's murder, could more historic cases now be solved with DNA?
And Veterans Day Out. Yes, the taxi charity for military veterans are taking some of our heroes to the coast today to enjoy the good weather.
I hope that never disappears, that sort of tradition that the taxi drivers, the black cabs, where they take people to the seaside, the veterans to the seaside.
No, it is such a lovely thing to do, and so necessary, because it's I mean, the rate of veterans who are homeless compared to any other profession or form of profession is just extraordinarily high. And there are some countries that do so much for their veterans. I mean, the United States famously has an entire government department dedicated to it.
Yeah. Well, we have a veterans minister.
We now do. That's only relatively recent. And I think there's always more that we could do for our veterans.
I think so, but I think it's such a lovely idea, and they do it every year. So big up to the black cabs.
Absolutely. Although I've got to say, I mean, now that we're approaching self-driving cars, if the taxi industry ceases to exist in the next 10 or 20 years, I mean, that's a very realistic possibility as one of the casualties of AI.
I don't think it is. I mean, have you seen the film Total Recall? I mean, it's a nice idea, but I don't think that we're ready for that yet. I don't feel like
here's the thing. You go to California today, and there's a company called Waymo. It's owned by Google, and you can already get a self-driving taxi. You can get it in LA, you can get it in San Francisco, they're bringing it to Texas. I mean, it's not too long until that comes here to the UK.
Well, they'll probably be really expensive, and one of those big taxi brands will probably take it over, and in the end it'll be the same thing. But I did see a video of this self-driving car which avoided a pedestrian on the road, then smashed into another car instead. And of course, there's a person inside the other car, but it made a decision. It decided, I'm going to hit the other car rather than the person.
That's a thorny can of worms, isn't it?
Can you imagine how people could, if people could get hold of that?
If you're in a self-driving car and the car has the opportunity, there's a bunch of school children in front of the car. Either the car can run over the school children, or the way to save them is to drive you over the cliff. What do you want your car to do?
It will do what it thinks is best, and I think it would save the kids. Sorry,
but I mean,
that's what it would do.
It's an interesting moral question. I mean, will some people pay more for cars that would value their life higher than the life of other people?
I wonder what they would do. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, loads more still to come. We'd love to hear your thoughts. gbnews.com/your say. But first, let's get your latest news headlines with Sam.
Very good afternoon to you. The top story today at 1. 3 former hospital bosses have been arrested in connection with the Lucy Letby case. They're being questioned on suspicion of gross negligence manslaughter. The senior leaders were in charge at the Countess of Chester Hospital during 2015 and 2016, while Letby, now jailed for murdering 7 babies, was working there. It follows a major police investigation into corporate manslaughter at the hospital. Police say all 3 have been released on bail as inquiries continue. MPs are set to vote this evening on Labour's controversial welfare reform bill, with dozens of their own threatening to rebel despite last-minute concessions. The Conservatives say they'll oppose it, claiming it doesn't go far enough to curb rising benefit spending. Around 35 Labour MPs are now backing an amendment supported by disability charities, amid concerns over future cuts to personal independence payments and universal credit. The government originally aimed to save £5 billion a year by 2030, but concessions have slashed that to £3 billion. Critics warn the changes could still push 150,000 people into poverty. Well, Business Secretary Jonathan Reynolds says the government's welfare proposals will give support to the people who need it the most.
People with the most significant disabilities who will not ever sort of get better, they won't be reassessed under this. They'll lose the stress of that and will be not wasting money doing that. But we will make sure that support is going to people who need it the most. I think that's really important. That's what I want to see from the system. That's why I asked colleagues to support it today.
In other news, more than 20,000 small boat migrants have now crossed the Channel so far this year. New figures show the milestone was passed at 2 a.m. this morning when a Border Force vessel carrying 60 people docked in Dover. 2 more boats arrived by 8 a.m, with several others still in the water. It means crossings are up 50% on this time last year, another blow for the Prime Minister as he marks 1 year in office. A new returns deal with France is expected next week, but critics still say it won't stop the smugglers. The UK's longest-running cold case has been solved. After a 92-year-old man's been jailed for life for rape and murder of a widow in 1967. Ryland Headley was 34 when he broke into Louisa Dunn's Bristol home and attacked her. A jury found him guilty nearly 6 decades later after new evidence came to light. The judge called it a pitiless and cruel act by a depraved man. Energy bills are falling for 21 million households across the UK, but experts warn they may not drop much more before winter. The typical monthly bill is down £11 under the new price cap, with gas and electricity rates both slightly reduced. But charities say prices are still painfully high, with families budgeting tightly and turning to support schemes. Regulators are urging people to consider fixed deals, which could save around £200 a year. The Royal Train is being scrapped after a review found it no longer offers value for money, ending a tradition dating all the way back to Queen Victoria. It comes as the monarchy's annual taxpayer funding holds steady at just over £86 million, the same as the last 3 years. That money covers palace upkeep, staff and public duties, but not security. Last year, royals carried out over 1,900 engagements and hosted guests over more than 800 events. But critics say the system is outdated and campaigners are calling for the sovereign grant to be scrapped entirely. And parts of the UK could hit 36 degrees today as a scorching heat wave pushes temperatures even higher than Barbados and Jamaica. It follows a record-breaking start to Wimbledon yesterday, where highs of 33.1 were recorded. The UK Health Security Agency, though, has extended its amber heat health alerts to more regions across the country. Forecasters say the southeast will see the most intense heat, but showers could roll in across Wales and the north. That's the news on GB News. More in half an hour. Now, though, let's get back to Tom and Nana.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon, Britain. The Prime Minister is facing the biggest rebellion of his leadership as Labour MPs accuse him of abandoning key welfare reform pledges.
Well, despite last-minute concessions aimed at shielding existing claimants of these benefits, critics warn that the proposed changes could plunge thousands into poverty, create a not two-tier but three-tier benefit system. Meanwhile, critics on the other side say it's not even saving that much money to start with.
So up to 50 Labour MPs, they're expected to defy the party whip and then vote against the bill, aligning with Conservatives and Reform UK in a very rare cross-party revolt. I think it's one of the first.
Well, I think any time you have a rebellion, the opposition parties generally vote with.
But I mean, with Keir Starmer, I mean, this is interesting that they're actually, because this is actually something that the Tories would probably want.
I think it's more rare to see an opposition party vote with the government than to see an opposition vote in opposition. But maybe we'll park that one. With the growing backlash comes as these new figures from the Taxpayers Alliance reveal a dramatic rise in enhanced personal independence payment PIP claims over the past 6 years. Get this. Successful claims for obesity surged from 2,341 to over 11,000. That's over 11,000 claiming PIP benefits for being fat. Whilst claims for anxiety and depression rose from 23,600 to over 110,000.
Right, let's cross live now to Westminster as GB News' political editor, Christopher Hope, has been in a briefing with Prime Minister's spokesperson.
Chris, what did the Prime Minister's spokesperson say about the scale of this rebellion?
Hi, Tom. Hi, Nana. Yeah, they won't talk about parliamentary matters in Downing Street. That's a matter for the whips. We know the PM will be voting later today. Around 1:30 today, we'll find out whether the Speaker will select the so-called Wrecking Amendment, backed by 40 or so Labour rebels at the moment, and that's to end the entire debate altogether, call off this reform, which will only save now £2.5 billion a year rather than £5 billion as had been planned originally, although it will push, according to the government's own estimates, 150,000 people into poverty, although the government says that this discounts other measures they're taking to improve the lot of those individuals affected by the change. So the vote later today, we'll see the 7 p.m. vote probably on this so-called Wrecking Amendment. If that gets through, the vote then at 10 to 8 tonight on the entire plan, and then they'll come back into committee stage next week. Big issues there in the briefing just now, the PM spokesman. Why are we doing all this before we get the results of any kind of review by Stephen Timms, who's the pensions and the work and the pensions minister, working pension minister? Why is he not waiting until that comes back, what's the urgency? I mean, 2.5 billion against a budget of 100 billion by the end of this year is barely a pimple, barely a scratch on the scale of the issue. This is popular with voters. It's not popular, it seems, with a lot of Labour MPs.
And this is the problem, is it not? That you've got a government that is trying to govern in all sorts of different ways. But it seems that on one half it has to listen to its MPs, on another half of things it needs to listen to focus groups, on others I don't know where the Prime Minister's principles tend to sit. Perhaps if you'd have asked me at the start of this ministry, Keir Starmer would be someone I would say is definitely not going to cut foreign aid to increase defence spending, but then he went and did it. It sounded like Rachel Reeves wanted to limit benefit spending to people who have retired, but then, of course, the government was forced to U-turn in that. I mean, almost everywhere you look, this government doesn't seem to know its own mind.
Yes, and that is surprising, Tom, given we are marking on Friday 1 year of this Labour government. Now, in the Cabinet meeting this morning, Sir Keir Starmer, you're seeing him on screen there in the House of Commons, he told his own cabinet that he felt this was they can rightly look back on this year with a real sense of pride and achievement. He listed those achievements. They include cutting in NHS waiting lists, school breakfast clubs, funding for that, social and affordable housing, extended free school meals, 4 interest rate cuts. He took the credit for that, although that course was decided by the Independent Bank of England, a £40 billion Amazon investment, 3 trade deals. He listed them all, but of course we said, yes, but you say all that, but the polls show you're tanking. You've got the worst start of any Prime Minister, Tory or Labour, ever, according to Sir John Curtis. And the government said, or the spokesman said, well, that's just polling. We're focusing on doing more and more to reform and deal with this plan for change. So, in a sense, you've got this government.
Christopher, I'm just going to interrupt you here. Sorry, we've just got news that Donald Trump is landing in Marine One. We're going to cross over to the United States of America and look at the president's helicopter. We're expecting some words from the president. He's known to talk to the media upon landing back from various trips. And of course, it's a big, big day in the United States. You've got crunch votes in the Senate over what Donald Trump calls his one big, beautiful bill. Critics include Elon Musk, the former close ally of the president, who says that this bill could bankrupt America. Meanwhile, people supporting the bill include J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, saying it's necessary for border security, and that must come before everything else. But it's worth saying that this one big, beautiful bill is indeed very big. An omnibus bill full of what critics might call pork barrel politics, where different legislators want different priorities all in one huge piece of legislation. But we can see there, I believe, the president's security may well be walking out there, and we should be able to see Donald J. Trump, the President of the United States, descend from Marine One in just a moment's time.
Oh, it's a lovely-looking helicopter, isn't it? What is it? It's one of the... Apparently, they've got a fleet of 3 Sikorsky S-76 helicopters. It's interesting. I wonder if that's what that one is.
I know that when the president takes off from the White House lawn, they always fly 2 helicopters.
To confuse...
as a decoy, exactly. And there isn't one helicopter called Marine One. It's just whichever helicopter the president is on, that becomes Marine One. A bit like Air Force One, there's not just one plane. There's a series of them, and whichever plane the president is on is called Air Force One.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. He's done some amazing things there in America. The Americans are very happy. A lot of them seem to be quite happy with his leadership. There he is, Donald Trump. He is now out and coming down the steps of Marine One.
Wearing his trademark Make America Great Again baseball cap, by the looks of things.
Where's his wife? She's usually following him, the First Lady. She's usually with him, but she's not with him this time.
Clearly not on this trip, but the president walking there across the tarmac, I wonder if he will stop and speak to reporters. He often does, but of course, it's a testing time on Capitol Hill, and that might well be at the forefront of his mind. Not least the world affairs. We know later in the week the president will be hosting some African leaders in the hope of trying to solve some further wars around the world. He's interested, of course, in foreign affairs, but domestic affairs dominate Capitol Hill this week. Shall we listen in to see if he has anything to say? You couldn't quite make out what he said there, but the question was, have you spoken to any of the Republican holdouts? That includes people like Senator Rand Paul, the Kentucky senator for the Republicans, formerly an ally of Donald Trump on many issues, particularly foreign affairs, but refusing to vote for the one big beautiful bill because it increases the deficit in his view. But we can see Donald Trump there stepping onto Air Force One and having made that short journey from Marine One onto his official plane.
Well, of course, isn't he heading to Florida to open the so-called migrant alligator Alcatraz detention centre?
Yeah, I think that's where he's.
That's exactly where he's heading. I wish we had one of those, but we don't have one of those, do we?
Oh, well, we've been watching Donald Trump there in Washington, of course, heading off to that alligator Alcatraz facility down in Florida.
Well, here in the UK, Chancellor Rachel Reeves is set to unveil plans to reduce the annual tax-free cash ISA allowance from its current £20,000 ceiling, with an announcement expected later this month.
Yeah, this is all in context of those benefit cuts, or perhaps lack of benefit cuts, because the government has had to U-turn partially on those cuts, meaning she needs to find £2.5 billion. But government officials have indicated the Chancellor intends to establish a lower annual limit for specifically for cash ISAs, maintaining that overall 20,000 savings allowance across other ISA products. But what actually is being considered in the Treasury? How might it affect us? Delighted to be joined by the money reporter at the Daily Telegraph, Madeleine Ross. Madeleine, thanks for being with us. I mean, all of the choices in front of the Chancellor look pretty nasty.
Yes, if you're an average cash saver, you might be a little bit worried about some of these rumours that are coming out of Downing Street and the Treasury at the moment. There are a number of options being considered, and we have to be clear that the Chancellor has not yet decided where the cash limit may land. It could be as little as £4,000, which some city managers have been asking for. It could be £10,000. She could leave it untouched, although that now seems much, much more unlikely. All will be revealed on July the 15th in her Mansion House speech, so we're all waiting for that.
But what's the point, though? To discourage people from saving cash?
Yes, well, lots of financial experts will tell you that if you have a big enough cash buffer, and that's usually considered to be 3 to 6 months of your personal expenditure, that you should not be putting more money in cash because you can earn higher returns elsewhere. Of course, that comes with risk. All investments do. You could end up with less than you put in originally, but you could also end up with a lot more. So the Chancellor wants to encourage investment because it can be good for savers. It's also excellent for the economy, and we all know she's looking for growth everywhere she can. But this is a very blunt measure.
Doesn't this smack of lack of understanding about consumer behaviour in this country? Because if I could potentially lose a lot of the money that I invest, then I might start looking at things like Bitcoin and all those other stuff. Because, first of all, if I do invest in that, then Rachel Reeves doesn't get a penny out of it.
Well, actually, research by AJ Bell and a survey that they did suggests that just 1 in 5 savers, when this allowance is cut, will move their money into a stocks and shares ISA. So lots of people share the same reservations about having money in investments where you could get back less than they do about having something in a 1-year fixed rate bond where you're going to get a certain amount paid out on a certain date. So, yes, lots of people will not change their minds about holding their money in cash, and that could see the Chancellor's plans scuppered, basically.
But also, I mean, frankly, over the course of the last 12 months, we've seen stock markets do incredible things. We've seen huge losses, bigger losses than at any time since COVID, but then rapid regains. I mean, if you had a significant cash buffer in your ISA, you could have made a hell of a lot of money during the tariff tribunals, for want of a better word, tribulations and trials of Donald Trump's tariff policy?
Well, that's the key question you have to ask yourself before you invest, is can I ride out any market turbulation, which can be enormous? You could lose 20% in a single day, as we saw during Trump's tariff crisis, for want of a better word. But if you've got a certain plan for that money, if you're saving for a wedding next year or to buy a house or to do work on your house, then you're not going to want to take that risk with that money. And that's what the cash ISA is for.
Would it be wiser for them to break another one of their pledges and raise income tax? Because it wouldn't be that much that they'd need to do to recoup what she thinks she might gain in this. I mean, they've literally backtracked on everything else.
Well, a question of whether it's wiser or not is one for the voting population to answer, but you could see her freezing the income tax thresholds for longer,
do that
and
anyway.
extending it again, or reversing some of the NI cuts that Jeremy Hunt introduced at the end of his last government.
That would be a manifesto breach.
It would be a manifesto breach, but does it look like she has any choice?
Interesting question to
And they don't care anyway. They've pretty much broken everything by not telling us what was in it or doing stuff that wasn't in it.
Well, Madeleine Ross, thank you very much for talking us through that thorny set of choices for the Chancellor.
Well, as temperatures continue to soar, we've got the coolest cash prize of the summer to be won. A totally tax-free £54,321. It's up for grabs in our latest Great British giveaway. Here's how it could all be yours.
The Great British Giveaway is now even greater, with your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. A totally tax-free £54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Imagine what you could do with that. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash, so make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
A reminder of that breaking news this morning. 3 former members of the senior leadership team at the Countess of Chester Hospital have been arrested on suspicion of gross negligence manslaughter.
Yes, this all follows the trial and subsequent conviction of Lucy Letby, which led the force to begin an investigation into the corporate manslaughter at the Countess of Chester Hospital.
Police say that all 3 have been released on bail as inquiries continue. The arrests have no bearing on the conviction of Lucy Letby for multiple offences of murder and attempted murder.
Well, let's get more now with our North West of England reporter, Sophie Reaper.
Good afternoon to you both. Yes, it seems that a relatively small amount of information has been shared with us, but just to elaborate on that, we heard this morning from the Cheshire Constabulary that 3 people were arrested yesterday on suspicion of gross negligence manslaughter, and that those 3 people were members of the senior leadership team at the Countess of Chester Hospital between the years 2015 and 2016. We also heard, as you rightly say, that they have now been released on bail as investigations continue, but as I say, that is essentially all we're being told. The Cheshire Constabulary saying that they will not be revealing the identities of those people that were arrested or giving any further details or interviews at this point. Now, of course, all of this comes following the convictions of Lucy Letby in October of 2023 as part of this wider investigation that's being known as Operation Duet. And what that is Cheshire Constabulary looking into potential instances of corporate manslaughter and gross negligence manslaughter at the Countess of Chester Hospital between those times where Letby was found guilty to have carried out the murders of 7 babies and attempting to murder 6 others. Now, speaking on this is the senior investigating officer for Operation Duet, Superintendent Paul Hughes. He said the purpose of this investigation of Operation Duet is focusing on senior leadership and their decision-making to determine whether any criminality has taken place concerning the response to the increased level of fatalities. Both the corporate manslaughter and gross negligence manslaughter elements of the investigation are continuing, and there are no set timescales for these. So, of course, this will now continue. But he also added, really rather importantly, that in terms of Lucy Letby, our investigation into the deaths and non-fatal collapses of babies at the neonatal units at both the Countess of Chester Hospital and Liverpool Women's Hospital, where, of course, Lucy Letby did some training prior to getting that job at the Countess of Chester. Both of those, between the period of 2012 and 2016, is also ongoing. So both of those investigations are now continuing, and as ever, we will continue to bring you those latest developments as we get them here at GB News.
Right, Sophie Reaper, thank you very much.
We're going to take you now to just some live pictures from the House of Commons, where the welfare bill debate is expected to start very soon indeed. A crunch moment for this government, and we'll be bringing you what Liz Kendall, the Work and Pensions Secretary, has to say as soon as she makes her opening remarks. All of this ahead of that vote this evening.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain. Lots more coming up on today's show.
Yes, a 92-year-old man has been told he'll die in prison after being found guilty of Britain's oldest cold case, nearly 60 years after Louisa Dunn's murder. Could more historic cases now be solved with DNA? Well, that after the news with Sam.
Very good afternoon to you. Just after 1:30, the top story this hour. 3 former hospital bosses have been arrested in connection with the Lucy Letby case. They're being questioned on suspicion of gross negligence manslaughter. Police say all 3 have now been released on bail as inquiries continue. MPs are set to vote soon on Labour's welfare reform bill. Dozens are threatening to rebel, even though the government has slashed its savings targets. Disability campaigners are still warning 150,000 people could fall into poverty. Energy bills drop £11 for 21 million households under Ofgem's new price cap, but experts warn they may rise again by winter. Charities are urging families to consider fixed deals. Well, it's the end of the line for the royal train and the end of a tradition that began with Queen Victoria. Campaigners argue the £86 million sovereign grant is outdated. They say the system needs to change. In the US, Elon Musk has again slammed Donald Trump, this time for his big, beautiful bill, calling it utterly insane and vowing to oust its supporters. But the president's fired back, accusing Mr. Musk of owing his wealth to government subsidies. And heat is continuing to grip Europe. France have issued a rare red alert for extreme temperatures. The Eiffel Tower in Paris is now closed. Parts of Spain and Portugal have hit record June highs of 46 degrees, and here we could see 35 degrees today. That's the latest from the newsroom for now. More news at the top of the hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello, this is your GB News weather update from the Met Office, and now today's likely to be the peak in this heat wave across parts of the southeast, with temperatures a little bit hotter than yesterday, but it's not hot everywhere. There is a front lying across some central parts, and that's bringing a bit more cloud, even some outbreaks of rain across parts of northern England into Wales, also parts of the southwest maybe, and eastern Scotland. Further northwest of this, it's a bright picture through much of today, some decent sunny spells, more sunshine there across central, eastern, southern parts of England, and this is where we're going to get the highest temperatures. Some very humid air still across these areas, and so we're looking at temperatures peaking around 34, 35, possibly even 36 Celsius. A fair bit fresher than this towards the north and west, and where you get the cloud and the rain, it's going to feel fresher as well. As we go into this evening then, a bit of a damp end to the day across some central eastern parts of Scotland. Some heavy bursts of rain possible. Could see some relatively high totals building up. Across western parts of Scotland, a brighter end to the day here, and similar across Northern Ireland. Some further heavy rain affecting the Borders area and the far north of England, and quite a bit of cloud across other parts of northern England into Wales as well, and some spots of rain. But towards the southeast, a fine picture as we go through this evening and the start of the night. But overnight, there will be some further rain across eastern parts, and some bursts of rain could push into some southeastern areas as well as we go through the early hours of tomorrow morning. Further west, a drier picture with some clearer skies, and for many it's going to still be quite warm, but perhaps not quite as warm as it was last night. A little bit more comfortable across parts of the southeast. Then as we go through tomorrow, eastern areas having a bit more cloud and some further rain at times. This could be quite heavy, could even be a bit of thunder mixed in across eastern England, even the southeast seeing some heavy bursts. Elsewhere though, apart from a few scattered showers across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, it's looking mostly dry, but not as warm as it has been. Temperatures peaking in the mid-20s.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The A701 northbound at Bloomfield roundabout is closed for emergency maintenance by Scottish Gas Networks. Drivers should follow diversions and expect extended travel times. The A48M eastbound has diversions from M4 Junction 29A at St Mellons to the A48M due to maintenance. Motorists could face delays. Alternate routes are advised. In Kent, M26 eastbound has one lane closed after a vehicle fire between M25 and Junction 2A, but normal conditions are expected soon. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast faces disruptions between Stoke-on-Trent and Macclesfield. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 35 minutes past 1.
Now, a 92-year-old man will be spending the rest of his life in prison after being convicted of rape and murder of an elderly widow in 1967.
Yeah, quite a horrific case, this. Ryland Headley was jailed at Bristol Crown Court for life, with a minimum term of 20 years for the rape and murder of Louisa Dunn in 1967. What's thought to be the longest cold case in the UK to reach trial.
And latest DNA technology, as well as matching palm prints taken on the scene more than 57 years ago, led a jury to find Headley guilty on both charges.
Well, this is the moment Ryland Headley was arrested, nearly 60 years after the incident he clearly thought he had got away with. Let's have a listen.
I'm here today because I'm arresting you on suspicion of the rape and murder of Louisa Dunn, which happened in Bristol in June 1967. The reason I'm arresting you is because the police have investigative material that indicates you are responsible for that rape and murder of Mrs Dunn, which happened at Britannia Road in Easton, Bristol, June 1967. You do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you don't mention, when questioned, something that you later align in court.
Well, joining us now is former detective Mike Neville. Mike, so this is a cold case, so I presume it means something that has been closed for quite some time. Is that what that means? And then why was it reopened, and what led the police to find what they found?
Well, it's incredible, isn't it? I've got to say, it was a few days after I was born that crime was committed. And what happens with these cold cases is that the police, they always realise there may be other techniques. If we go back to the case of John Humble, who sent in a tape saying, I'm Jack, at the time of the Jack the Ripper inquiry in 77, 78, no one realised that DNA existed, but he was convicted after that. And so the police store these materials. In this case, there was a skirt worn by the victim that was re-examined for semen, and it was found on the skirt, and a 1 in a billion match was found to Ryland Headley. So it's excellent police work, excellent work by the forensic scientist, Mr. Parry. But the tragedy is that many years ago, a police officer didn't take Headley's palm prints, and that would have led to his conviction far quicker.
It does seem extraordinary that we are seeing more and more DNA evidence being used now, today, than perhaps at any other time. I mean, just a few months ago, there was a man wrongly imprisoned for decades who was released off the back of DNA evidence too. Has there been an advance in the field, or are police just being more diligent now when it comes to re-examining old evidence?
No, there's advances all the time. When the first DNA, the murder solved by DNA was 1988, Colin Pitchfork. At that time, you needed an enormous amount of material to extract the DNA and then find the killer. Now, less and less DNA has been is required. The tests are far more sensitive, and so the police are now able to work with far less of the DNA than they would have, far less of the sample than they would have needed. And these tests improve year upon year. And so the message is, if you committed the perfect crime today, it may well not be the perfect crime tomorrow, and you will be caught.
Now, OK, so it's definitely him, pretty much. He lived about a mile away, didn't he, from where she lived. And also, there's something in 1 in a billion chance that it's somebody else, so it's unlikely to be anybody else. He's 92. What's the sort of point of putting him in prison, even though he deserves it and he should have been in prison many years earlier?
Well, he's obviously a very wicked man. I mean, he was convicted of 2 rapes of elderly ladies in 1977. And looking at him in that the video that you showed, he doesn't look to be crippled or ill or unable to move around. And so I suggest that wickedness needs to go away, and the fact that he needs to go into prison, and the family, I think the granddaughter of the victim is still alive. They need to see justice. He did a very, very, very evil thing on a very frail and a lady who lived on her own. He needs to be punished, no matter how many years ago it was.
I mean, frankly, thank goodness he's lived to 92. I mean, lots of people don't. And there was every chance that he would have died getting away with that horrific crime. I mean, I suppose it's a message to everyone out there that, I mean, eventually justice can be done, and a message to anyone who's committed any crime and thinks that they've got away with it, well, that knock on the door could be coming any day now.
You're absolutely correct, and I know that the knock on the door can be coming if you've committed a murder or some rapes or some other wicked crimes and you potentially left DNA at the scene. But it's the police officers in this case have done an exceptional job, and I know the detective inspector said they were really pleased to know that he was still alive, so they could bring this man to justice, and the family could see that.
Yeah, well, I'm very pleased that they've at least caught him and he goes to prison. He won't, I don't think he'll live too much longer, but at least, you know, that's at least he will be punished for what he did. Thank you very much, Mike Neville. He's a former detective. Fascinating, isn't it, that they can do that? But what I would like, I mean, I kind of want them to focus on more of the current crime now as well, though, because I feel it is important. It is important because people shouldn't get away with crimes. If there is a way of finding out who's done what, and with the evidence that you currently have, then even if that crime has already passed and the people have passed, I still think it's relevant, but I kind of want them to do a bit more.
No, although I think it does do both, though. I mean, if you are a criminal who wants to commit a crime today and you see that they just got this guy, you know, 60 years after he committed the crime, that might and that DNA evidence is so much more. It only takes such a tiny fragment of DNA now to catch someone. Perhaps that does send a signal, and perhaps that does keep us safer.
Well, we shall see. But if you are in search of some holiday sun, why go anywhere? But if you fancy it, here's the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The heatwave continues across western and central parts of continental Europe, temperatures widely reaching the mid-30s, and this is likely to trigger some quite severe thunderstorms at times, particularly across Spain, northern parts of Italy, parts of Switzerland. This could bring some quite intense hail, frequent lightning and also some gusty winds. But across southern parts of Italy, parts of Greece, it should remain mostly settled. Plenty of intense sunshine continuing as we head into the weekend, and temperatures widely remaining in the mid-30s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
Poll, it doesn't surprise either Bev or I, shows that most Brits believe that Britain is in decline. 76% of us, though, did surprise. We fear political unrest and even violence.
And those fears come amid violent riots, of course, in Ballymena in Northern Ireland. They've left dozens of police officers injured and the area largely destroyed in some cases, particularly the local leisure centre.
Let's talk to our Northern Ireland reporter, Doogie Beattie. Doogie, this report comes on the back of sustained riots over, 6 days in the province?
They are putting undocumented immigrants into areas of high deprivation. There is a group here called Mears. 85% of their properties are in socially deprived areas, and those areas are now kicking back because in amongst those areas you have pensioners and so forth that have bought their houses back in the 80s. I spoke to a couple of them that were having to be moved out by their grandchildren.
But we know that people are not happy with. I think first thing to say is that people are worried about their living standards. They think they've declined. And actually, strikingly, in a different part of the survey, we found that 4 in 10 people feel like they were worse off since the COVID pandemic. That was actually particularly pronounced amongst Reform voters. But overall, people are very pessimistic about their personal finances and their cost of living. So I think that's a huge driver. We also know that people aren't happy with the government's handling of immigration. And actually, going back to that question about what's affecting people's living standards, which I think is a much better way of getting at how people are feeling about things like the economy, people perceive, including Labour voters, including a sizable chunk of Labour voters, that immigration has had a negative impact on their living standards. And I do think we're starting to see that filter through into pessimism about the country as a whole.
GB News, the People's Channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. At 46 minutes past 1, we go straight to the Commons, where Liz Kendall, the Work and Pensions Secretary, has opened the debate on welfare.
Equality or social justice when 9 million of our fellow citizens are out of work and not looking at work for work, and when our country has one of the widest disability employment gaps in Europe, and there is no responsibility in leaving our system of social security to continue as it is and risk support for it becoming so frayed that it is no longer there to provide a safety net for those who can never work and who most need our help and support. So this bill, alongside our wider reforms, will help people who can work to do so, protect those who cannot, and begin to get the benefits bill on a more sustainable footing. Labour's historic mission is to get more people into good jobs, because we know the value of good work, not only as the best route out of poverty and to raising living standards, but because good work brings a sense of purpose, pride and dignity, and because there is such clear evidence that good work is good for physical and mental health too. I'll of course give way to the Honourable Gentleman.
I thank the Secretary of State for giving way, and she is absolutely right that any government that takes office should aim to reduce poverty in this country. Why then do her own government's figures show that the actions that she is taking this afternoon will put an extra 150,000 people into poverty? And does she really think that is what her backbenchers expected when they were elected to government last year?
I think that's what they call chutzpah, Mr. Speaker, seeing as members opposite put an extra 900,000 children into poverty, and this government is determined to tackle it. This government will take 100,000 children out of poverty by our plans to extend free school meals to every household on universal credit, a down payment on our child poverty strategy in the autumn. Mr. Speaker, I am very proud that at the spending review, alongside billions of extra investment to create good jobs in every part of the country, to invest in the transport infrastructure and skills so people can get those jobs, and to drive down NHS waiting lists so people can get back to health and back to work, my right honourable friend, the Chancellor, delivered the biggest ever investment in employment support for sick and disabled people, quadrupling what we inherited from the party opposite to £1 billion a year. And as I set out, I will give way to my honourable friend.
I thank my right honourable friend for giving way, and I thank the Secretary of State for the improvements that she has made to this bill, which are extremely reassuring for my constituents, 9,000 which are on personal independence payments and are now reassured. There are some, however, that are concerned about the impact assessment published yesterday about the number of adults who could be put into poverty. I do recognise that these figures do not take into consideration the impact of the planned record investment in employment support. Will she publish further assessments which provide a more accurate view?
I would thank my honourable friend for her question. She's absolutely right that those do not take into any account the employment impact from the investment we are putting in. We have actually produced extremely clear evidence that good employment support works, including Work Choice, a Labour programme ended by the Tories, which meant 40% more disabled people were in work 8 years later, and we will indeed publish further updated impact assessments before committee stage, spelling this out in more detail. I will, of course, give way to the Honourable.
Okay. Mr. Speaker, thank you. I've been asked by Parkinson's and MS, and I asked this question specifically of the Minister. Hope she give me the answer. They're talking about the fluctuating income will be locked out of qualifying for the higher rate of the UC health element. The functional limitation must constantly apply for a claimant to meet the severe conditions criteria. Exactly. So can I ask the Minister, the Secretary of State, please, will she commit on the floor of this House to add explicit reference to the bill to ensure that fluctuating conditions like Parkinson's, like MS, are not locked out of the higher rate? It's really important for those people, if you don't mind. Thanks so much.
The honourable gentleman raises a very important point, and I would say to him that our honourable members have asked about the issue of whether people with fluctuating conditions meet the severe conditions criteria, which is for those with lifelong conditions that will never improve and means they can never work. It is absolutely the case that as someone's condition progresses, if they actually change and meet those severe conditions criteria, they will be protected. And one of the reasons for the TIMS review that I'll come on to later is precisely so we make sure this vital benefit does recognise the impact of fluctuating conditions on people's life. That's absolutely crucial to make sure this benefit is fit for the future. Now, as I set out to the House, I'll make a tiny bit of progress and then I will respond. As I set out to the House yesterday, we have listened carefully to concerns that there wouldn't be enough employment support in place quickly enough by the time the benefit changes come in. So we are bringing forward an additional new £300 million of employment support for sick and disabled people, delivering a total of £600 million next year, £800 million the year after, and £1 billion in 2028-29, increasing our total spending on employment support for sick and disabled people to £3.8 billion over this Parliament. So we ensure that anyone who is affected by this bill will be offered personalised work, health and skills support, including access to a specially trained advisor by the time the legislation comes in. I will give way to the honourable gentleman.
The Secretary of State giving way. Under the last government, we brought forward the Work Well pilot, which looked at 15 different areas for 59,000 people to provide a package, a multidisciplinary team package to get them back into work. Am I correct in thinking that the £300 million she's investing is built off the back of that pilot? Are they planning to continue it and continue to grow it? Because the results seem to show that it had a very strong preference of getting people back into work while supporting their health. That's what this House wants to do. Does she agree with me that that's the case, and is that the funding?
Joining up work and health support is absolutely essential, and I've personally been to visit some of the projects in place, and they're making a really big difference. We are building on that with additional extra investment, in quadrupling what we inherited from the party opposite. But joining up work and health support is very, very important, because I think good health and good work are two sides of the same coin, but this needs to be available widely and across the country. Turning now to the specific measures in this bill. Clauses 1 to 4 begin to tackle the perverse incentives left by the party opposite, which encourage people to define themselves as incapable of work by rebalancing the universal credit standard allowance and health top-up. I am very proud that we are delivering the first ever sustained above-inflation rise to the universal credit standard allowance. The largest permanent real terms increase in the headline rate of out-of-work benefits since the 1970s. 6.7 million households, the lowest income households, will benefit from the increase in the universal credit standard allowance and deliver a £725 a year increase in cash terms by 29/30 for a single person aged 25 and over. Now, having listened seriously to concerns about our original proposals on the UC health top-up for existing claimants and future claimants with severe conditions and those at the end of their lives, we will ensure that for these groups, the combined value of their universal credit standard allowance and the health top-up will rise at least in line with inflation. Protecting their income from these vital benefits in real terms every year for the rest of the Parliament. Alongside these changes, Schedule 1 of the bill will ensure that people with severe lifelong health conditions will never be reassessed, removing all the unnecessary and unacceptable stress and anxiety this brings, and so they have the dignity and security they deserve. And yesterday, we published draft regulations on our new right to try, guaranteeing that in and of itself, work will never lead to a benefit reassessment, giving people the confidence to try work, something many people have called for years. Mr. Speaker, turning now to Clause 5 of the bill on personal independence payments. Yesterday, I told the House that we have listened to the concerns raised by many honourable members, disabled people and their organisations about the impact of the new requirement for existing claimants to score a minimum of 4 points on at least one daily living activity to be eligible for the daily living component. Even though 9 out of 10 people claiming PIP at the point these changes come in would be unaffected by the end of the Parliament, I know this has caused deep and widespread anxiety and stress. So we have changed our original proposals. So the new 4-point eligibility requirement will only apply to new claims from November 2026. This means no existing claimants will lose PIP because of the changes brought forward in this bill, and anyone who currently receives any passported benefits, such as care allowance, will also be unaffected by this change. I will, of course, be grateful.
My right honourable friend for giving way, and the changes to PIP as far as they go are very welcome, as is the review to be conducted by our right honourable friend, the Work and Pensions Minister. And that will be in co-production with disability groups, as I understand it. Can I just ask, however, why do we have a review when it's committed to make changes in November 2026, when that review may not have been completed? Wouldn't it be far more logical to have the review, to produce it, to bring it this House for agreement, and then to make the changes after that?
I will come on to this point in a moment, but the purpose of the PIP review is to have a wider look at the assessment. It hasn't been looked at for over a decade since it came in. I understand the sequencing points, but I'll come on to that in a moment. What I think is extremely important is to have the very clear message that existing claimants, PIP claimants, will now be unaffected by the changes in this bill, and I give way to my honourable friend.
I'm very grateful to her for giving way and for the fact that she's listened this week. But she will know there are many disabled people watching our proceedings today who remain very worried. She's absolutely right about the fact that the existing system isn't working. So can she say more about the review that our honourable friend from East Ham is going to do, and how we can rebuild the confidence of the disabled groups and those people who are worried, because every welfare reform seems to have been bad for them, about the fact we can have a system that actually assesses who really needs it?
My honourable friend makes an extremely important point, and I'll come on to say a little bit more about this in a moment, but this review will be co-produced with disabled people, their organisations, clinicians, other experts and MPs, because we need to make sure that we get this right. I have been a long-standing champion of co-production, including when I was the Shadow Minister for Social Care, because I think you get those best decisions when you work closely with people. Let me just say a bit more about this, because there are issues that many honourable friends raised, including yesterday. We believe protecting existing claimants while ensuring new PIP awards are focused on those with higher needs in future strikes the right and fair balance going forward. And I want to address some of the questions raised yesterday by honourable members on this side of the House about the sequencing of the PIP changes and the wider review of the PIP assessment being led by my right honourable friend, the Minister for Social Security and Disability. I will make progress on this point. No existing PIP claimant will be affected by the changes in this bill. They will also be reassessed under the existing rules whenever they have an award review. From November 2026, new claimants will be assessed under the 4-point criteria. The purpose of the TIMS review is to look at the PIP assessment as a whole, to ensure it is fair and fit for the future, and so it takes account of the huge changes in society, the world of work, and the nature of health conditions and disability since the benefit was first introduced more than a decade ago. I give way to my honourable friend.
I thank my honourable friend for giving way, and I welcome the improvements made to this bill so far. However, I still think we do need more details about the co-productive element of the TIMS review. So can my right honourable friend confirm to me, can my right honourable friend refer to me that the review will guarantee that disabled people and their organisations are the key voice in developing this policy? And will it change and revolutionise the view in Whitehall so that future policies around disabled people that impact them will always have their voices central to the discussion?
I can absolutely reassure my honourable friend on this point. Many honourable members have asked for precise details about how this will work. That is something I think it is extremely important for us, and we're beginning that process, to discuss with disabled people, their organisations and other experts, because it isn't for me, it is not for me. If you just let me finish my sentence, and then I will of course give way to the honourable lady. It's really important that we don't come up with a process. I think it would be completely wrong if we come up with a process in Whitehall and impose it on other people. You've got to do that properly. I'll give way to the honourable lady.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Has the government taken legal advice as to whether it is lawful to treat people with the same conditions, disabilities and circumstances differently within the benefit system? It is morally unacceptable, but does the Minister believe it is lawful?
I would gently just remind the honourable lady that her own party had different rules and different rates for people on existing compared to new benefits in future. That's something they did. Once again, members opposite seem to be railing at the very problems that they caused. Now, I understand why many members would like to see the results from the TIMS review implemented before the 4-point change takes effect. But reviewing the assessment as a whole, let me just say, it is a major undertaking that will take time to get right, especially if we co-produce it properly. It will be for those involved in the review to determine the precise table, but we are absolutely committed to moving quickly and completing the review by next autumn. And I want to assure the House any changes following the TIMS review will be implemented as soon as is practically possible via primary or secondary legislation. And once we have implemented changes from the review, any existing PIP claimant can ask for a reassessment. Mr. Speaker, welfare reform, let's be honest, is never easy, perhaps especially for Labour governments. Our social security system directly touches the lives of millions of people, and it is something we all care deeply about. We have listened to the concerns that have been raised to help us get these changes right. The bill protects people already claiming PIP. It protects, in real terms, the incomes of people already receiving the UC Health top-up from that benefit and their standard allowance. And it protects those with severe, lifelong conditions who will never work, and those near the end of their life, as we promised we would. But I have to tell the House, Unlike the previous administration, this government must not and will not duck the big challenges facing this country. Because the people we are in politics to serve deserve so much better than this. We are taking action to put the social security system on a sustainable footing so it is there for generations to come. We're helping millions of low-income households across the country by increasing the standard rate of universal credit, and because we know there is no route to social justice based on increased benefit spending alone, we are providing record investment in employment support for sick and disabled people so they have the same rights and chances to work as anybody else. Our plans will create a fairer society, one where people who can work get the help they need, where we protect those who cannot, a society where the welfare safety net actually survives and is always there for those who need it. Above all, this government is determined to give people hope that tomorrow will be better than today, with real opportunities for everyone to fulfil their potential and build a better life, and I commend this legislation to the House.
And with that, the debate has begun on a landmark piece of legislation, something that may well define the next year of Keir Starmer's premiership. Frankly, how will the Commons vote at 7 p.m. this evening when a crucial reasoned amendment has been laid? Yes, the Labour MP Rachel Maskell has laid down a new reasoned amendment that could wipe this bill away. It will be voted on at 7 o'clock. But let's listen in to what Kemi Badenoch is saying now.
Is now encouraging dependency and dragging this country into deeper debt. Mr. Speaker, the welfare system is a crucial safety net for the poorest and the most vulnerable in our society. So I was quite surprised, Mr. Speaker, at the tone that the Secretary of State decided to take today. She thinks that she can stand there and get away with the fiction that all of this was caused by the last government. So let me refresh their memories, especially for those who were not here at the time. In 2010, we inherited 8% unemployment, and we brought it right down. The last Conservative government reformed welfare to introduce universal credit, and our reforms helped ensure that employment more than halved and was at a near record low. What have we seen since they came in? Unemployment has risen every single month that Labour came into office. Mr. Speaker, during our time, indeed 800 jobs were created for every day that we were in office. And at the same time, until the COVID pandemic, we kept spending under control, cutting the deficit every year. But COVID changed everything. It did. Now we face you. Mr. Speaker, it is delightful to hear them laughing. I remember us sitting on that side of the House, and they were demanding that we spend more and more and more money. Thank God it was Conservatives who were there under COVID. Labour would have bankrupted the country. We face, Mr. Speaker, we face a new reality. Under this government, every single working day, 3,000 people move on to incapacity benefits. 3,000 every single day. That is a 50% increase from when we left office. A 50% increase. They have only been in power 1 year, Mr. Speaker. Imagine what it's going to be like after the next 4 years. A 50% increase, 3,000 people onto incapacity benefits every day. That is not normal, it is not sustainable, and it is not acceptable. Spending is spiralling under Labour, Mr. Speaker.
Will my right honourable friend give way?
Yes, I will.
Edward Lee. My right honourable friend quite rightly mentions COVID, and I'm sure there's one thing that we can agree on. Unfortunately, before COVID, people were assessed much more often in person. And during COVID, that was stopped, understandably. And we have to get these in-person assessments going. And we have to get them going quickly. Sure, that's something we can all agree on.
Father of the House is absolutely right. This is something that we should all be able to agree on. But they're too busy trying to shift the blame instead of solving the problem. Let's talk about solving the problem, Mr. Speaker. We have 28 million working people propping up 28 million people not working. The rider is getting heavier than the horse. Health and disability benefits were £40 billion before COVID. By 2030, I'll give way in a moment, by 2030, on this government spending plans, they will hit £100 billion. I give way to the Right Honourable Lady.
I thank the Right Honourable Lady. I wonder if she could help the House. When was it, during the 14 years when the Conservatives were in power, was the time when the benefit system worked well?
Mr. Speaker, I will remind her of our inheritance. We took difficult... I will. In 2010, I said it before, I'll say it again, 8% unemployment down to 4%. Every single time Labour leaves office, they leave more people unemployed. The welfare system needs continual reform. We took difficult decisions and got universal credit through with so much opposition from them. We improved the system. That doesn't mean it can't be further improved, and we've offered to help. They don't want any help. They just want to make things worse. Mr. Speaker, by 2030, on this government spending plans, we will hit £100 billion on health and disability benefits alone. That is more than what we spend on defence. And this should make everyone in this House stop and think. Because this bill does nothing to fix that problem, and that is why we cannot support it. The Conservative Party are the only party in this House urging restraint. And unless this House acts, they will bankrupt our children. They will bury the next generation under a mountain of borrowing and debt, and they will do it not because we had no choice, but because they lacked the courage to choose. A fundamental and serious programme to reform our welfare system is required, and this bill is not it. This bill is a fudge. And I feel sorry for the Right Honourable Lady. She looks as if she's being tortured. This is a rushed attempt. We all know why this is happening. We all know why this is happening. I'll give way in a moment. We all know why this is happening. This is a rushed attempt to plug the Chancellor's fiscal hole. It is driven not by principle, but by panic. The changes were forced through not because they get more people into work, but because someone in 11 Downing Street made a mistake. It is clear that these changes were not designed to introduce fundamental reforms. How did we get here? Last year, at the Chancellor's first budget, she left herself no headroom. That same budget killed growth, meaning that unemployment has increased every month since Labour took office. This is a good time for me to remind the House again that every time Labour leave office, they do so with unemployment higher than when they came in. And they are doing it again. They are doing it again. I'll give way to the Right Honourable Gentleman first.
I'm very grateful for her giving way. I'm sure that she would not want an inaccurate statement to stand on the record. Unemployment fell under just two 20th century governments, the first Labour government and the 1970 government of Ted Heath. Now, I know that she's repeating a standard Conservative Party message, but it is a really cynical and silly misuse of statistics.
The Honourable Gentleman is simply wrong. He needs to get an education and look at the facts. I give way to my Right Honourable friend.
Does my Right Honourable friend agree with me that the chief architect of the fiasco which people with disabilities are facing today, and which every member of the Labour Party opposite is facing today, the chief architect is the Chancellor of the Exchequer, and the fact that she is not here to face up and take responsibility is all we need to know about her and those on the front bench opposite.
My Right Honourable friend is quite right. This is a fiasco, and it is the Chancellor's fault. She marches them up and down the hill all the time. They're the ones who have to face their constituents. We are trying to help get a welfare system under control and get people into work. My Right Honourable friend, he is right to raise the Chancellor. He's right to raise the Chancellor because when that economic outlook worsened this spring, she chose to force through these changes to welfare, designed not to reform, not to improve the system, but to address a hole in her numbers. These changes were rushed for Rachel, as we say, Mr. Speaker. And I watched when she made that budget. It was quite clear she had no idea of the consequences of her decision. But the country should not have to pay for the mess she has made, and neither should disabled people. even with these changes in this bill, welfare spending would still be billions higher at the end of the Parliament. Slowing down how much you increase spending is not a cut. And despite... I'll give way on that point.
I thank her for giving way. I don't know about the rest of the House, but I'm slightly baffled here. The opposition has made a virtue of her blank slate and her blank sheet of paper. But is she in favour of more or less? Is she in favour of the actions of her government or not? Because this complete lack of taking responsibility is exactly what got us into this mess in the first place.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not surprised he's baffled because he's really not listening to what I'm saying. We have been very, very clear. We had 3 conditions. We've been very, very clear that we want to see the welfare budget come down. But I'll make some progress. Even with these changes in this bill, Mr. Speaker, welfare spending is still going to be higher by billions at the end of this Parliament. This is not a cut. Slowing down an increase is not a cut. We need to get this under control. But despite the obvious, I will make some progress. Despite the obvious flaws in this bill, Mr. Speaker, we offered to support benefit changes in the national interest. The honourable gentleman asked a question. I will answer it very clearly here for those who have not been paying attention. We agreed to support the government if they could make 3 simple commitments, not unachievable or unreasonable commitments. That first, they had to cut the overall welfare bill because we are spending far too much already. Second, if they would get more people into work. And third, if they would stand by the Chancellor's own commitment, her own commitment, that with taxes at a record level, because of her choices, she wouldn't be coming back for more tax rises. What did we get from the government? A sneery response indicating that they could manage on their own. How's that going? And what happened instead was that the number of MPs opposed to this bill grew ever larger until the inevitable U-turn finally came. Announced by press release dispatched after midnight, a panic letter setting out that the reforms had been gutted, and now the bill is more incoherent than it was at the beginning. I give way.
I thank the Right Honourable Lady for giving way. Just to reflect on the record of the previous government, as of 2024, approximately 24% of the UK population, nearly 16 million people, were living in poverty. Between 2019 to 23, an additional 2.1 million people were living in poverty. And in the year until April 2024, before the Labour government came into power, 4.45 million, or 31% of children in the UK, were living in relative poverty. Will the Right Honourable Lady agree with me that the previous Tory government failed the majority of the population, including disabled people and children?
I definitely will not agree with him. He's talking about relative poverty figures, and the fact is the best way to get people out of poverty is into work, something we did again and again and again. Mr. Speaker, the bill is more incoherent now than it was right at the beginning. It doesn't do the job at all. Reforms, which were not enough in the first place, will only now cut £2 billion from a ballooning budget instead of £5 billion. And they will create a new welfare trap and a 2-tier welfare system. Right up until the last moment, the government kept pushing and pushing, ruling out changes, sending their poor, weary ministers and ambitious backbench bootlickers out onto the airwaves. And then, as we have seen before, Mr. Speaker, at the last moment, I say to them, they abandon you. They abandon you after all of that. They have been hung out to dry, Mr. Speaker. The government does not care how it has made their backbenchers look. And it's not the first time. Week after week, the Right Honourable Lady was sent here to say with a straight face that she was right to cut the winter fuel payments, that there would be no turning back, that the country's finances would simply collapse if she didn't take pensioners' fuel money and give it to the trade unions. And her backbenchers sucked that one up. They muttered and they grumbled, but each of them went back, told their constituents that the winter fuel payments were being confiscated to fix the foundations. And only once pensioners had sat in the cold all winter and the Chancellor had tanked the economy, and up and down the country, Labour MPs had the door slammed in their face, did they finally accept that it was a mistake. This time, when asked to line up behind a bill that cuts money from older disabled people with physical disabilities, a bill that, according to their own modelling, gets no one into work, funnily enough, lots of them didn't fancy another go. Perhaps they will think twice next time the Chancellor comes to them with a bad idea. Yes, I will give it.
I thank the opposition for giving way. The Prime Minister's inability to control his backbenchers has meant that the Chancellor now has to find an extra £2.5 billion to fill the spending and savings that she's claiming she's got. Can the Leader of the Opposition guess how she might raise that money?
The fact, I thank my honourable friend for that question, the fact that they have refused not to commit to tax rises means that it's probably inevitable. But it is quite clear that Labour MPs will surely feel emboldened to push for more unaffordable changes to our welfare system, including to the two-child benefit cap. So let's be clear. Part of the reason these plans have been so rushed and badly thought through is because of the mess the Chancellor has made. This is an attempt to find the quickest and crudest savings possible, to plug the hole she has created in the public finances, but the Chancellor is not the only one to blame. It beggars belief that the Labour Party came into office after 14 years in opposition with absolutely no serious plan for reforming welfare. What were they doing all that time? What were they doing? The welfare bill is already totally unsustainable, and it is only getting worse, Mr. Speaker. It is only getting worse. As I said, health and... I'll give way to the Honourable...
and as one of the Labour backbenchers who will be supporting the government, can I just point out there's not that many backbenchers behind her, and they get fewer every week. But perhaps, given what she's just said, she could tell us. She says she wants to cut further from the budget of the DWP.
Where?
What would she cut? What exactly would she do?
We cut unemployment. Yes. As I was saying, Mr. Speaker, health and disability benefits are forecast to rise to £100 billion. That will mean 1 in every £4 raised in income tax will be paying for these benefits. This is not sustainable. Until the pandemic, we on this side of the House had spent years bringing down the benefits bill and getting people back into work, including millions of disabled people. Talent, energy, ingenuity, these are not confined to those in perfect health. If we want to afford public services, improve people's lives and compete globally, we cannot consign so many people to a life out of work. We've got to get them into work. So I do believe that the whole House agrees the system needs change. I think we may disagree on what exactly that change looks like, but what we have in front of us today is just a big mess. I give way to my right honourable
friend. The Secretary of State was right. Welfare reform is tough, and governments tend to duck the issue, with notable exceptions like my friend for Shringford and Woodford. But if you are going to change welfare radically, you surely review the options and then decide which ones to take. By contrast, this government's decided...
Well, the debate has kicked off in the House of Commons, and if you want to keep up to date with all the latest on this debate, all 5 juicy hours of it, you can scan the QR code on your screen right now and watch it all the way up to that crucial vote at 7 this evening.
Right, well, joining us now is GBNews political editor Christopher Hope. So, Christopher, Kevin Badenoch spoke, also Liz Kendall. What were your thoughts, and can you give us a bit of a summary of what was discussed there?
Yeah, I think it's fascinating what we heard there. We heard from the Liz Kendall. I thought the most telling thing she said was towards the end of her long speech opening that debate, saying there that welfare reform is, to be honest, never easy, particularly for a Labour government. We've listened to the concerns, she said, and we are reflecting that in the change here. This is the amendment here, which is going to be voted on at 7 p.m. tonight. This is a wrecking amendment signed by 39 Labour MPs, which would pull the bill altogether from the House of Commons, and that's why it's so important. We're having that vote at 7 tonight. At 10 to 8, we get the debate on the substantive second reading plan here. They've halved the cuts they want to make from £5 billion to £2.5 billion. It will push maybe 150,000 people into relative poverty. That's what this poverty modelling has said from the government, but the actual impact assessment is out next week at the committee stage. We'll wait and see how that plays out. Lots of Labour MPs concerned about it, but no question that Labour is intent on pushing forward with these plans, which goes against really what so many in Labour stand for and got into politics for. We heard also there from Kemi Badenoch, and she said, rightly, that there are 3,000 people every day moving on to incapacity benefits, up 50%, she says, since Labour came to power a year ago on Friday. By the end of the decade, the welfare bill will be bigger than the defence budget. She says that's not possible to carry on with, and she would make further tougher changes were she the Prime Minister. So the debate started now and will be following all day in Parliament for GBNews viewers.
And Chris, this reasoned amendment that Rachel Muscal has put down, I mean, 39 names on the order paper. You've got it there. 39 Labour names attached to it. I've been seeing from some journalists that they reckon it's now up to either 42 or even 44. I mean, it does look like this number is growing. Clearly, the number 50 was being tossed around this morning, but they need over 80 if the government's to be defeated.
Tom, that's right. The figure is 83. The working majority, if 83 MPs voted against the government, not abstaining, voting against the government, this bill would fall, and it would trigger a complete crisis in a week when this government is meant to be marking and celebrating its one-year anniversary of being in power. As you say, it's going to keep creeping up slowly. That will carry on all day. Ministers are debating and talking to backbench Labour MPs, pleading with them to get past this stage. Maybe more changes can be made in the committee stage when it comes back on Wednesday next week. So there are opportunities in the future to change this, but get it past this opportunity. For the government's point of view, from Sir Keir Starmer, he is marking today as a day of achievement. He has told his cabinet in terms that they've done well this year. We should be looked back with pride on what we've done as a government, citing things like 3 trade deals, 4 interest rate falls, reforms to breakfast clubs, free school meals, billions tipped in the NHS and money for defence, although at the expense of the aid budget. He sees this week as a moment of marking and with pride what's happened, but the voters are blowing them a massive raspberry, frankly, with this government being seen by Sir John Curtis, the supreme pollster in this country, that Sir Keir Starmer's had the worst start of any Prime Minister ever, Tory or Labour. So you've got one idea being pushed by the Labour government. They are going forward. They're going to press forward with their plan for change, while everyone else largely is shrugging so far.
OK, well, Christopher Hope, thanks for bringing us the very latest there from the heart of Westminster. Now, we should remind ourselves of what this debate is all about, the ballooning welfare bill. And there's been some research done by the Taxpayers Alliance that just gives you a little idea of how much this welfare bill is ballooning. In 2019, there were 26,000 people claiming PIP, personal independence payments, for autism. Now that's over 114,000. Anxiety and depression, 23,000 in 2019, now 110,000. ADHD, 4,000 in 2019, now 37,000. And get this one, obesity. Yes, you can claim disability benefits if you're fat, and just over 2,000 people did that in 2019. Today, 11,228 claiming personal independence payments for obesity.
All of that, though, a lot of it seems to be ever since COVID, isn't it? We need to get ourselves back there. But listen, stay with us, though, because we can now speak to former Fat Families host Steve Miller. Steve, good to talk to you. Lovely to see you. Now, Steve, this is a bit of a shocker, isn't it? Obesity, that people can now claim disability benefits for that, when ultimately most people are fat now, say, because they eat too much or, you know, they don't do enough exercise. That is the main reason. Is that reasonable for people to be claiming benefits for that?
Well, listen, I think what the voters want, the ordinary public, like people like me, what we want is people that have genuine disabilities to be looked after and to receive benefit. What we don't want is people that fake the system. And I'm sorry, there are people out there that fake the system. We all know one. I am sure. I know people on PIP that actually have celebrated. They're having a PIP party because they're not now going to lose it, when in fact they probably should. Coming back to being too fat, it is ludicrous. It's fat fakery. That's what it reeks of. If you are fat, there is always something you can do about it. There is always a solution. And actually, work is great if you're fat, because often you're eating too much because you're bored. You are bored stiff. So I say, ditch your PIP, get your backside off the sofa, and get yourself into work and stop faking it. And that might sound blunt, but it's meant to. Because we have developed a culture in this country of victimhood. Everyone now, oh, I've got mental health issues. Yes, a lot of people do have genuine mental health problems. They should be looked after. But I'm telling you, and I've been one of them, I've been on the medication, but I still went to work. And a lot of those people are going to be more depressed if they don't get themselves into work. Right, so we should. Yeah. So when it comes to sorting this problem out, yes, we need stronger interviews. People need face-to-face, not a telephone interview. And did you know there are TikTok videos out there? It's laughable, that actually describe how to make your PIP points higher so that you get it. The problem in the Commons today is you've got everyone not wanting to upset their constituents. They're all wanting to be politically correct. We need politicians with balls who are bold to get the job done and say to the shirkers, you're getting your backside into work.
But I was going to say, but the doctors must be enabling this, not maybe deliberately, but somebody has to say...
I think they're nervous.
Well, somebody has to say, oh, you've got ADHD, oh, you're too fat.
On that point, there's a significant change that happened around about COVID, which is, as Steve, you say, no longer in-person interviews, on the telephone interviews. And the dropout rate massively dropped. When you had an in-person interview, lots of people who applied would just the day before drop out, perhaps because they think they couldn't fake it in front of a person. A hell of a lot less likely to drop out when it's a telephone interview, and more than that...
This is the problem with the lockdown. Listen, the lockdown made a lot of people, not all, but a lot of people lazy. So they got to the point at the end of it, oh, I've been receiving my dosh, I can still enjoy myself, and I know what I'll do now. I'll get this PIP thing that they brought out. I have a condition, I won't go into it, but I could probably claim PIP, and if I did, I'd be a fraud. But I reckon I could get it if I tried.
No, that is a really interesting point, because the incentives of the system are all... Go and get your PIP, watch your TikTok video, it tells you exactly how to do it and how to answer those questions on the phone. You could read off a script even on a phone interview, and the assessors that are doing it are on performance-related pay. Yeah, so this is something that Fraser Nelson has been pointed to, the Times columnist, saying that actually they get paid more if they approve more people onto the benefits.
Doctors are also nervous. You put yourself in their position, we've got to empower the decision makers to actually be bolder and braver to say, no, you're not having PIP because you're too fat. Yes, you are a bit, the ups and downs of life that we all have suddenly become this massive mental health problem. And a lot of those people, I believe, are claiming PIP. They should not be receiving it. We've got to empower the doctors, the decision makers, to put their foot down and say, no, you're not getting it, you get a job.
And yet Steve, one of the things that the government has announced now, one of the things the government has said is that they are rolling back on their original reforms, which was going to take away some of the PIP from some of the people that might have more marginal cases and all the rest of it. Instead, it's only going to be about new claimants. That's what the vote is in Parliament today all about. What do you make of that, Steve, that actually... I'm looking at these numbers here, the hundreds of thousands of people who've been added to these benefits over just the last couple of years. They're all completely unaffected by what's going on in Parliament today.
I think it's dire. And I can imagine, like I mentioned earlier, there are PIP parties going on every, many streets in the UK. Yes, I'm going to still get my PIP. And it's quite a bit of money, for these people. And I can tell you this, hand on heart, I know many people who get PIP and they are down the boozer, spending the bit. Oh, I've had my PIP money through. Meet me down at the pub at 2 o'clock. Trust me on that one. That is the reality. It's not about being cruel to people. Yes, look after people in genuine need. But we're now in a situation where we don't have a government that's brave enough and bold enough to make tough decisions. Getting the assessors to say, no, you're not going to get it. They're too meek and mild. They're worried they're going to lose their seat.
Well, I was going to say as well, it's not just that as well, the employers as well, because a lot of people on PIP are actually in work as well. Yeah. So the wages are so low or just not good enough for you to actually live on. The government could intervene and do something there as well to ensure that people are paid properly.
Well, I've got a statistic on that one.
Yeah.
Did you know it is an in-work benefit, but 1 in 8 people on PIP are in work?
Yeah.
It's extra cash. And if there are a lot of people out there that know how to play the system. They know how to play the system. They watch the TikTok videos. They talk to their pals. This is the reality of the world. And people like me are fed up of it. Why should hard-working people go to work, pay their taxes to fund some lazy so-and-so who can't be bothered to get their backside in to do a good day's work for a decent day's pay?
All right, Steve Miller, lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much. That's Steve Miller. He's the former host of Fat Families.
Absolutely. And, I think everyone's got an opinion on this, right? I think it's clear that the government stuck their foot in it initially, but perhaps they've gone too far back the other way now.
I think they've just got it wrong.
Yeah.
It's just wrong. It's not the right... I think a lot of young people, perhaps, who are claiming benefits, people who supposedly have some mental health, not all of them, I know a lot of them are genuine, but you need to be working. There's nothing worse than ruminating about...
surely the most simple thing is get back those in-person assessments.
Exactly.
Number one, before anything else, have people in-person assessed.
And if you are overweight and claiming PIP, then you should just get out and maybe do some exercise and eat less food.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. And next, the Veterans' Day Out. Yes, the taxi charity for military veterans are taking some of our heroes to the coast today to enjoy a spot of good weather. That's next.
Hello, this is your GB News weather update from the Met Office, and now today's likely to be the peak in this heat wave across parts of the southeast, with temperatures a little bit hotter than yesterday, but it's not hot everywhere. There is a front lying across some central parts, and that's bringing a bit more cloud, even some outbreaks of rain across parts of northern England into Wales, also parts of the southwest maybe, and eastern Scotland. Further northwest of this, it's a bright picture through much of today, some decent sunny spells, more sunshine there across central, eastern, southern parts of England, and this is where we're going to get the highest temperatures. Some very humid air still across these areas, and so we're looking at temperatures peaking around 34, 35, possibly even 36 Celsius. A fair bit fresher than this towards the north and west, and where you get the cloud and the rain, it's going to feel fresher as well. As we go into this evening then, a bit of a damp end to the day across some central eastern parts of Scotland. Some heavy bursts of rain possible. Could see some relatively high totals building up. Across western parts of Scotland, a brighter end to the day here, and similar across Northern Ireland. Some further heavy rain affecting the Borders area and the far north of England, and quite a bit of cloud across other parts of northern England into Wales as well, and some spots of rain, but towards the southeast, a fine picture as we go through this evening and the start of the night. But overnight, there will be some further rain across eastern parts, and some bursts of rain could push into some southeastern areas as well as we go through the early hours of tomorrow morning. Further west, a drier picture with some clearer skies, and for many it's going to still be quite warm, but perhaps not quite as warm as it was last night, a little bit more comfortable across parts of the southeast. Then as we go through tomorrow, eastern areas having a bit more cloud and some further rain at times. This could be quite heavy, could even be a bit of thunder mixed in across eastern England, even the southeast seeing some heavy bursts. Elsewhere though, apart from a few scattered showers across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, it's looking mostly dry, but not as warm as it has been, temperatures peaking in the mid-20s.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The M73 northbound at Junction 2A is closed for maintenance. Motorists should follow diversions and allow extra time. Closures are also on A48M eastbound from M4 Junction 29A, St Mellons to A48M Pound Hill Overbridge. On the M4 eastbound between Junction 3 and 2, there's a 20-minute delay due to congestion. M23 northbound between Junction 9 and 8 has one lane closed due to a broken-down vehicle. And on the trains, disruptions affect routes on South Western Railway and between Stoke-on-Trent and Macclesfield on Avanti West Coast. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 39 minutes past 2. Now, for over 77 years, London's black cab drivers have given back to Britain's bravest, our veterans.
This week, 50 volunteer cabbies will be taking veterans to the seaside for a day of fish and chips, 1940s sing-alongs and an Elvis tribute.
And our man on the scene is our very own award-winning Charlie Peters. He's in Worthing for us. Charlie, what are the veterans up to?
Well, good afternoon. We're here in Worthing. It's been a wonderful day so far. Everyone gathered in Surrey. Well over 100 veterans and also those black cab taxis from the taxi charity for military veterans all gathering here. And the first of many special guests I've got to bring you, Tom, is Dorothea Barron. Dorothea, a 100-year-old World War II veteran. This is a very special day to be with so many other veterans, Dorothea.
Oh, it is indeed, and it's exciting to hear their stories and how we match up in what we went through when we were youngsters.
And it's so special to see all these people, but also to be appreciated and supported by all of the taxis as well.
Oh my goodness, yes. I remember pre-war my mother saying, those wonderful London taxi drivers have been taking Cockney children to the seaside again. And I said, haven't they seen the sea before? And she said, no. And I couldn't believe it, because we used to trot down to Brighton at weekends.
Well, Dorothea, we've had a great lunch. I'll come grab you later, but stay with me, guys, because there are plenty more excellent people here. I want to bring you one of those amazing taxi charity organisers. This is Paul Cook. He's the vice chair of the taxi charity for military veterans. Paul, an amazing day today. Congratulations. Amazing to see so many people here being supported by your charity.
Yes, it's great. I mean, this is our annual event, and it's so nice to see like 250 people here each year. We've been doing this, like, as you know, for over 70 years, and it's nice to see everybody coming together again. It's really lovely to see everyone.
Paul, you're sitting next to Babette, who recently ran the London Marathon for the charity. Why were you so keen to support them?
It's just amazing work that they do for the veterans, like bringing them here to Worthing and taking them over to Normandy and Holland and everything, you know, so it's more than I can do, run 26 miles, you know, for these guys and what they've done.
I know all the veterans here are very grateful for your support. Great to speak to you too. Let's move around this room. Do you get a sense of the scale here, Tom and Nana? Hundreds have gathered, many from all different cap badges, all different services. I've got here so many veterans from the Parachute Regiment. You can see their famous maroon ties. If you keep coming with me now, right here to the end. Hello, hello. Oh, I've lost him. I had another guest who was set up here. There he is. Hello, how are you? It's been an amazing day, hasn't it? Are you happy to be here?
Really, really happy to be here. And Bill has just seen somebody he hasn't seen for 54 years.
Bill, I'll speak to you quickly. Hello there. Charlie from GBNews. How are you? This has been a great opportunity for reunion for you then?
Yeah, we've met each other last Thursday. He's a Chelsea pensioner and he's up here today. The last time I'll see him was 54 years ago with the 36th Regiment down Shrewsbury-Ness. Over the moon.
Amazing to see so many people here, many you've previously served with. This is a real treat.
Oh, great, brilliant. Really, absolutely out of this world.
And it says a lot about the spirit of the Black Cabs as well.
Oh, true. Very true.
Bill, it's a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you so much. Well, there you go, Tom and Nana. So many people here benefiting from the military charity for veterans. They've done an amazing work here at that taxi charity. We're expecting some music to come in a second, so hopefully you join me a little later on and we'll have a band and plenty more entertainment for these amazing people, our finest generation, but not just them, veterans from conflicts all the way up to Afghanistan as well. Every generation here represented and being supported by the taxi charity for military veterans.
Absolutely brilliant stuff, Charlie. Of course, we'll be back with you on the channel throughout the course of the afternoon.
Well, look, a lot of people have been talking to us as well about this claiming PIP and all that. Andy said one that I just wanted to read here. If people are crying mental health erroneously, then bring back mental institutions. See how many suddenly are cured.
Gosh,
that's a good view. That's a view. It's a view.
But if you're in search of some holiday sunshine, perhaps you'd want to, well, frankly, stay around in England.
That's what I would do.
Yeah, but if you'd rather hear some, I don't know, buy some French cheese or what do they sell in Spain? Chorizo? I don't know. Here's the weather in Europe.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The heat wave continues across western and central parts of continental Europe, temperatures widely reaching the mid-30s, and this is likely to trigger some quite severe thunderstorms at times, particularly across Spain, northern parts of Italy, parts of Switzerland. This could bring some quite intense hail, frequent lightning and also some gusty winds. But across southern parts of Italy, parts of Greece, it should remain mostly settled. Plenty of intense sunshine continuing as we head into the weekend, and temperatures widely remaining in the mid-30s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more to come on today's programme.
Yes, we always like to keep you up to date on that Commons welfare debate ahead of the crunch vote for the Prime Minister later on today. Do not go anywhere.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk then? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 48 minutes past 2. Now it's the end of the line for the royal train. Yes, King Charles has decided it's time to retire the historic locomotive with rising costs and a new era of royal accountability. The palace says the train will go by 2027.
In the meantime, royal helicopter use appears to be on the rise. Here's the King and Queen arriving in Edinburgh earlier today with the leasing of 2 new choppers, which will use sustainable aviation fuel.
Well, the decision comes as the public money used to fund the monarchy for the last financial year has been revealed, costing over £86 million. But where does that money come from? Well, here to explain is our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker.
Good afternoon, both. Yes, the public money that has funded the royal family has been revealed in the last 24 hours, and it's all funded by a big portfolio called the Crown Estate, which the King owns, and it's lots of lands, it's lots of property, it's even the seabed around the United Kingdom. And all of those profits that the King makes, it gets over £1 billion in revenue each year, is surrendered back to the Treasury. So the UK government can spend on with that money what it likes, but it gives a percentage back to King Charles in the form of these sovereign grants, and that is the official money used to fund the monarchy. So things like the upkeep of royal palaces, staffing salaries, as well as official travel and things such as that. Now, within the sovereign grant report, which was released late last night, we were told that King Charles has decided to scrap the use of the royal train. That is a mode of transport used by the royal family since the reign of Queen Victoria. King Charles even had his own carriage built for it in the mid-1980s, but it will be decommissioned in 2027 due to the appalling, what the royal family would say is appalling or spiralling costs. But not everything is in the sovereign grant reports, because things like security of the royal family, of policing costs, and even crash barriers that the local governments have to put out when the King goes to visit a region of the United Kingdom, all of that comes from taxpayers' money, and that is not included in the sovereign grant report. We don't know the exact figure of royal security, for example, and that is something that Republicans always argue about. And they have been speaking to my colleagues up in Scotland on GB News a little earlier on. Take a look.
The older generation had a loyalty to the Queen, but the Queen is gone now, and it's nothing personal against the current people doing the job, but they are increasingly seen as a sort of a relic of older times, and we now need an elected head of state.
We're living with this outdated hierarchical system that goes a lot further than the royal family, and we need to change things.
One of these days people are going to wake up and see that this institution doesn't add anything to this country. It's something from the Middle Ages. We need a modern constitution in Britain, Scotland, whatever, and we need to get rid of the royal family.
Well, opinion polls show that, in general, the Republicans are a minority within this country. A vast majority still support the royal family, particularly the Prince and Princess of Wales, actually, who seem to pop the popularity opinion polls. You look at that £86.3 million figure of the sovereign grant, that equates to £1.29 per person in the United Kingdom. But because of the Buckingham Palace resurfacing programme going on at the moment, next year's sovereign grant report is going to top more than £100 million of public money, because the palace needs a lot more rewiring and a lot more plumbing, because it is a huge fire and flood risk at the moment, and you don't really want to see Buckingham Palace burning down or flooding.
No, we've seen what happened to Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris when it wasn't maintained enough. It's an argument about the Palace of Westminster as well, where they currently employ people whose job it is to literally patrol the estate looking out for fires. That is literally a job in the UK Parliament at the moment. But Cameron, I want to talk about the train. Tell us about the train.
Well, no more, Tom. Yes, so 30 years after the beloved Royal Yacht Britannia got decommissioned in 1997, we are going to see the decommissioning of the Royal Train. The problem is that, A, it needs a massive upgrade to keep up to date with the modern rail network, which would cost a lot of money. B, storing it costs a lot of money, and C, it's not actually used very much, and when it is used, it costs a lot of money. So, for example, it was used twice in the last financial year, and it cost over £20,000 for one journey and over £40,000 for another journey. So a lot of money. That's why the King has decided to scrap it.
Well, let's hope it can find a new life, as I think you mentioned a museum.
Yes, it will become a museum at some point. We don't know exactly how yet.
Cameron Walker, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, that's it from us on Good Afternoon Britain, but don't go anywhere, because, of course, it's the one and only Martin Daubney up next.
Superb show, guys. Yeah, we'll be there every minute of the way ahead of that crunch vote. 7 p.m. tonight. Will Sir Keir Starmer limp through? Will his premiership be mortally wounded? Will this be the beginning of the end of Sir Keir Starmer's premiership before he even gets to the first birthday on Saturday? I'll also be joined in the studio by Rupert Lowe for his take on what really needs to be done with the benefits bill. 5-year clampdowns on foreign claimants. Let's get people in front of face-to-face assessors. End the nonsense of people on benefits for acne, alcoholism and writer's cramp. Ludicrous. That's all on the show 3 till 6. It's going to be a cracker. But first, here is your weather. See you shortly.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again, I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, the heat hasn't been everywhere, but if you're in the southeast, it has been really hot today and oppressively humid. It may be welcome news to hear that things are going to be turning fresher. There is a cold front nearby that's brought a bit of cloud, bit of rain, and behind it there is fresher air coming in, and so temperatures are going to be dropping. But for the time being, still hot and humid across parts of the southeast as we go through the end of the day and through overnight as well. Elsewhere, there's some clouds, some rain, which could be a bit heavy at times across some northern parts of England, southern Scotland, but mainly a east-west split as we go overnight. Clearer weather towards the west, a bit cloudier towards the east, and like I said, still pretty warm and humid in the southeast, but it isn't going to be quite as warm as it was last night. Then as we go through tomorrow morning, eastern parts of Scotland, here it's a cloudy start. There'll be some further rain. That could still be quite heavy at times. Further west, a brighter picture, but a few showers starting to push into the Western Isles already. And similar across Northern Ireland, mostly fine, but a few showers out towards the far west. A west-east split across England and Wales, cloudier towards the east. Outbreaks of rain, which could be quite heavy. Brighter, drier towards the west. Then as we go through the day tomorrow, watch out for some heavier bursts of rain pushing into parts of the southeast across Kent into East Anglia. Could be a bit of thunder mixed in with these. Also, some of the rain across eastern England, eastern Scotland could have a bit of thunder mixed in. Otherwise, there'll be further showers feeding in across Scotland and Northern Ireland, but across the rest of England and Wales, actually looking like a fine day. And temperatures, particularly in the southeast, markedly lower than they have been of late, mid-20s at highest, so feeling much more comfortable, really. The worst of the rain clears away towards the east as we go through tomorrow evening, but there will be a few showers continuing across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, and thereafter through the rest of the week, well, it is going to be more changeable. There's going to be some wet weather coming in from the northwest, and that could be heavy at times.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash, so make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Britain's Newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
An amber heat alert remains in place across all of England until Monday morning.
Well, joining us now, GB News reporter Jack Carson. Jack Carson, where are you? Tell us. Oh, he's rowing. Jack Carson, what a go on?
Good morning. Good morning. Well, we're in the beautiful Stratford-upon-Avon, so we were on the big wheel earlier on, and one of the other beautiful things you can do is also row on the river as well. This is the Avon Boating Club. This has been going since the 1800s, 1898 it started. This boat over here on the right, that was bought brand new all the way back in the day, so it's historic here, and a lot of these boats are from the likes of the 1930s as well, and it's just absolutely beautiful. And it's this beautiful sunny weather. Here we are on the river. I've never rowed in my life before, but I think I've got the hang of it okay. But let's have a listen to a few of the people we've spoken to this morning about how they're enjoying the weather today.
Yesterday I did start to think, right, I'm getting a bit sweaty and hot now, so yeah, but it's nice, isn't it? As long as there's a breeze, it's not too bad.
Can't beat it. Literally the best thing ever. Yay!
They make the most of it because the winter was terrible this year with all the rain, so this is payback.
It makes us feel better, doesn't it? Bit of sun on our bones. It really does.
Enjoying the weather, Will? Nice? Sunny? chatty. Well, there you go. That's what some people have been saying to us this morning about how they're enjoying the weather. I think I've got myself into a bit of a pickle. Hopefully we're not going to capsize. I think other people might be a bit more experienced in the rowing.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Very, very good afternoon to you on this huge crunch day in politics. It's 3 p.m. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News. We're broadcasting for you live from the heart of Westminster and all across the UK. Live pictures there now from the debate in the Commons, because at 7 p.m. this evening, Sir Keir Starmer faces a make-or-break crunch vote on his welfare bill. With his own backbenchers rebelling, over 40 is the latest tally, plus the Conservatives, Reform and the Liberal Democrats uniting against this bill. Will the embattled PM live to fight another day, or would his leadership be forever tainted, leaving him a dead man walking ahead of the Labour Party's first birthday of their victory on Saturday? Now, this government policy doesn't appear to be going very well at all, does it?
Serious answer is to smash the gangs. We have to take those gangs down, to smash the gangs that are running this vile trade, to smash these gangs.
Well, the gangs simply aren't listening, because another grim landmark has been reached today, with now 20,326 illegal immigrants reaching British shores this year. Sir Keir Starmer promised to smash the gangs, but all he's smashing is records. And the Nissan plant in Sunderland is axing 250 jobs after an astonishing 88% drop in profits for the year 2025. The car giant's worst results in over 25 years. Now, with plummeting demand for electric vehicles being the blame, is net zero killing the British motor industry? And Elon Musk is threatening to launch his new America Party, on day one, if Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill is passed into